guys, you lie for a living doing magic tricks. Can you also tell if somebody is lying to you?
Well, the short answer is yes and no. You can't really determine with 100% accuracy that someone's actually lying, but there's definitely ways to kind of investigate, kind of to analyze their body language, their posture, their intonation. And as a magician, I'm doing experiments every day, right? I'm going up to people. And the interesting thing that magicians can do is I can force something on you, whether it's a free choice or a question where I already know the answer, and then determine if you're lying or telling the truth based off of your reaction. So here's a simple example. Say I know what your card is, and I say, is this your card? And they go, no. Well, I already know because I use different techniques. And now that's a tell. So if I approach them again, I know if they're lying or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's that I already know the answer,
Yep.
and then I can prompt them to respond. And based off the response, I can kind of analyze how they lie.
How can you tell typically if somebody is lying to you or not? Like, are there things that you notice with their
There's
face?
tics. The most obvious one, and people probably have seen this and heard about it, is the eye flutters.
Like,
Yeah,
like
yep.
that.
Eye flutters, a blink on a response. So if I ask you a question and like, no matter what, you say no, okay? No matter what I ask you, you say no. Understand?
Yes. Oh, no.
Oh, wow. See how easy that was? Is that automatically something so simple like that? Because magic is a reflex. It's a reflex. It's not something that you're thinking about. You're in a conversation right now. This is very low key. We're just communicating. And I just prompted you to lie, but you couldn't. So it's unnatural, right? So now when I ask you another question, it's like, is this a cactus?
No. Because you told me, but now I'm lying.
But now you're lying. And so what happened is also what you didn't even realize, and you could play that back, play it back, is that your eye fluttered when you said no, because you're having to think about it. So because I'm saying, is this a cactus? And you just went, and you blinked, and you weren't even aware of it. And those are little micro moments that once you get adept at reading people, cold reading people, experimenting with people, different personalities. Magicians, what we do all the time is we go into an audience as we're performing and we're looking at everyone there and determining who's going to be and have the best reaction, who's going to be the best volunteer to give me the greatest reaction as I'm performing. So I might see somebody, and if they're kind of like this, one, I have to flip them. I have to try and make sure that they're enjoying the performance, but also it clues me in on, well, I don't want to use this person because they might be just like a dud. Because part of the experience of magic is a great presentation. It's a great moment. It's a great experience for an audience. But definitely determining how someone's going to react is a skill set that a lot of magicians have, and something that I have, that I can just look at an audience and go, that's the guy right there.
So when you're thinking about who to pick, let's say you're on stage, you're going out. One, what are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody who is easy to manipulate? Or are you looking for somebody who, okay, so what does it mean to look for somebody who is easy to manipulate? How can you tell?
The biggest thing is that people making eye contact with me, because a lot of times people think when you go into the audience, I need someone from the audience. They go in, they'll go. And if they're kind of looking away from me, but with a little smirk, then I know they're up for a good time. You know what the worst person, I'll tell you who the worst person to pick for a magic show or just any sort of presentation, doesn't just have to be magic, is the person who is the most eager to get up on stage. So if there's someone that's like, I want to do it, it's like automatic no.
Why?
Automatic, because they're not, they want it to be about them. They want the limelight. They want to be on stage and show, and they want to be the star. That's not what I need. What I need is I need someone who is going to be, they're going to allow me to have fun with them and basically be the prop for them, because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen in the show. And I don't need somebody who's bouncing off the walls, because if they're bouncing off the walls right during the moment that I need them to be focused, we lose the whole trick. The effect means nothing because it was lost with their antics, okay? But if I have somebody who I know would be easy to suggest to, like, hey, I need you to stand right here. I need you to wink right now. I need you to smile here. Because there's different routines that I have where I'm coaching them and I'm telling them what to do. It's called a cod corpse, right? What happens is I'm instructing them. I'm instant stooging them. They don't know that this is what's going to happen. So if I say to somebody, this happened in a show of mine, at the end of this show, at the end of this routine, I gave applause to this guy and everybody's applauding and they're like, great. And as I shook his hand, I told him, and this was a very flamboyant man, I shook his hand and I said, do a pirouette. Because I knew he knew how to. I said, do a pirouette. And as I told him, he looked at me and was like, right? So then what I did is I turned away. He spun. It looked amazing, but I pretended that I didn't see it. And the whole audience goes, oh my gosh. And then I, out of the corner of my eye, look and I go, oh, no, like I'm going to stop him. And that is the key moment. And it was knowing ahead of time, bringing him on stage, seeing that he was able to take instruction, you know, that I knew that I could get that out of him. Same thing with kids.
Look, running a podcast or any content operation is a grind. The editing, the clipping, the captions. It's enough to make anyone quit before the fun even starts. Enter Riverside. This tool is your content powerhouse. Forget decent quality virtual calls. Riverside gives you 4K video, pristine audio, and makes deadweight tasks disappear faster than bad ideas. Their text-based editor slashes, silences, and edits errors with one click. Needing some extra clips? Riverside's AI Magic Clips finds the moments people actually care about and delivers them to you. No guessing, no endless replays. And here's the kicker. You don't even need to record in the platform to use its features. You have the option to upload your footage to Riverside, letting it handle the heavy lifting. So you can save your brain power for the creative stuff. So stop drowning in edits, get busy creating, hit the link in the description, use code Cody, and thank me later. That's fascinating. Is that what it means to read magic, or what does it mean to read magic?
Oh, that's a good question. Reading magic. Well, first of all, I should ask you this question. What do you think is the most common question I'm asked as a magician?
How do you do a trick?
How do you do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's the most obvious question.
Right.
It's like kind of uninteresting.
It's like saying, how do you make money, Cody? You're like, that's fucking complex.
Yeah, right, totally. It's like this is the most uninteresting question you can ask, although it's the most common. A better question is, do you know how other magicians do their tricks? Right? Like if I were to ask you, I might say, so Cody, this business over here, what are they doing? How are they actually making it happen? And you're going, well, actually, here's the rules. Here's the deal. Here's how it's structured. This person's taking a piece here, because you know all about it. So same thing with magic. Imagine seeing sheet music. If I had sheet music right here, can you read music?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I see a bunch of black squiggly lines, right? I'm just like, I don't know what this is. I guess it's I don't know anything. But someone who can read music, right? They can look at it. They know what it is. They know what it sounds like, the beats, the tempo. They know everything. Now, I can read magic. So I can watch another magician, okay? I know why he's saying the things he's saying, why he's standing the way he's standing, why he's wearing what he's wearing, why he's choosing to use these specific words, because I can read magic and I can see, and just by watching, and I'm not trying to figure it out, but I know what he's gonna do and how he's gonna do it before the audience even realizes. I was watching a friend of mine in Vegas. I went to a show, and like halfway through the trick, I'm just like, this is great, that's amazing. Nothing's happened yet, but I know where he's gonna go. And so that's what reading magic is. If you know enough about magic and you can read it, you can watch a magician. And so therefore, I'm more interested in the presentation than the actual method.
Oh, it's sort of interesting. It kind of reminds me of body language. Like they say that 80% of body language is nonverbal.
Totally.
And so I wonder, do you think that we are turning people off, we're losing people before we even open our mouths sometimes?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And that's why first impressions is so important, right? I mean, these things seem so obvious, but before every one of my shows, the curtain's down and I'll walk out, I'll get mic'd up. It's 4 minutes, 3 minutes till show. I'll walk across the stage and I'll listen to the audience. And I can determine, because I know how many members we have that night, whether it's a couple hundred or whatever. And I can say, they're quiet. For this size of group, they're quiet. What does that mean? That means my first impression, I have to get them there. I have to raise their energy a little bit. If they're really loud and they're chatting and they're, making a lot of noise, I'm like, they're a little rambunctious. And I'm going to have to get their attention, hold it. I'm not going to allow for them to basically run away in their pockets of friends. And then I'm trying to catch them saying, hey, pay attention, pay attention. So it's constantly, listening to the audience. And I suppose the best way to do it is to go out there and be genuine, right? So even when I did Main Street of Wall Street, right? I was out there, come out for the very beginning, and it's like, hey, everybody, let's get started. No one's paying attention, right? There's hundreds of people in this conference room.
Right.
And you just have to wait. Because I feel like if you bash them and you're like, come on, people, let's go, like it's a high school pep rally, adults and people are like, who are you? Wait, what are we doing here? But if it's like, all right, we're going to get going here. All right, are you ready? And then I also do a lot of things in that particular performance or that event. I'm engaging with a few people in the front row that allows people to settle in. And then I can address the group as a whole. So it's constantly auditing and constantly keeping an eye and being aware of the entire audience, especially when you're a large audience, whether it's up front, whether it's in the back, and all things.
What do you think about, I've seen you do this one-on-one with a lot of people. And so, let's say men, for instance, right now, I think it's hard dating out there. There's a lot of men that are maybe, I think it's called projecting. Like they'll go up to a woman at a bar and they'll lean in and they'll be loud and, kind of close the space between the woman, and then they're sort of rude if it doesn't work out. Yeah. And so this projecting is actually a sign of a lack of confidence as opposed to they think it is confidence. So instead, how do you project individual confidence?
Well, I think the best answer could be summed up in one word: competence. Confidence is just competence. So when you know your stuff, I don't have to try to impress you, right? If I ask you all about business, you're not going to go, well, I think that. You're just going to go, this is what it is, right? I mean, and so if someone asks me about performance, about show, I've literally done thousands of shows for millions of people live, not including media, right? Live. So I just sit there and go, oh, I know this audience. Why? Because I've been in front of this kind of audience 1,000 times, right? Here's the best move for picking up a girl, especially. So I work in a casino, and I've been working in casinos for years. And so what happens, there's nightclubs in the casino, and then I'm a resident there, so I have a show there. People know me. I'd walk in, and they just let me in and whatever. And this was the best way, and it's so funny, is I'd wait. I would see some guy try and hit on this girl, and this girl's always just like, oh, gosh. Every time, they're loud. They're, spitting all over her because they're drunk, and it's like, oh, my gosh. And then the guy would leave, and she's like, oh, turn away, roll her eyes. And I'd just go over to her. And I would just like put my hand on her shoulder and just say, I just have to apologize for that guy. I know you're having a good time. I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. Have a great night.
And then she'd start to talk with you.
1,000. Every time. And the thing is that she'd look at me like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like I'm noticing her situation. That's being genuine, because I was genuine. And whether something happened or not, didn't really matter. But like it allowed the door to be opened. So now she knows that I'm not a creep and I'm not going to bother her.
Yeah, it's almost like you're releasing the pressure valve too. Yeah. She's like, and you're like, and then her exhale, yes. You get to catch the exhale,
yeah,
which is really interesting.
You see it all the time in casinos and the nightclubs. It's so funny. And I'm always like, here it goes. I mean, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't been in the nightclub scene for a while. I've been doing other things, but when I did go.
That was your move.
That was the move. Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, they're not even aware of their body language. They're not even aware of like what happens when they present to somebody. How can somebody change their body language and the way that they engage with people if nonverbal is so important?
Well, there's a book that I read, and it's like a fascinating book, but it was geared for magicians. It was called Magic and Showmanship, okay? It's written 80 years ago, who knows? And it literally broke down in diagrams of how to stand, how to turn, if you drop something. And I remember reading that as a teenager, and it immediately was like, oh, I'm doing things so wrong. Like if I drop something, people usually just bend over like this. Like, that looks awful. You know, what you should do is just bend at your legs, kind of like what ladies have to do with a dress on, right? You're not bending over, you're kind of bending at the knees, reaching down, and that way your body and your torso is straight and flat to the audience. And it's the same idea. And so I think being comfortable with who you are, it goes back to that competence, I have to say. I have to keep going back to that because I believe in it so strongly, is that practice in front of a mirror, something also, I mean, this sounds silly, but what I would do I entered magic contests, and I won some magic contests as a teenager and even in adulthood. And something that I would do is I'd rehearse at night in front of a mirror. No props, no music, just basically one light on, just in front of a mirror, and I'd practice an eyebrow raise, a smirk, a look. So in my room growing up also, I had like playing cards taped onto the wall in different locations. So I would have a mirror here, or if I'm just facing this wall, those were my connection points with the audience. So I would look at, oh, 2 of diamonds is right here, 4 of clubs is right here, 7 of hearts is here. And so that forced me and trained me to engage with all parts of the audience. So all of this being in front of a mirror, watching yourself, practicing how you're going to move, practicing how you would shake your hands, practicing your smiles. You know, these are things that seem kind of silly, but if you talk to any real expert in body language, even whether it's Robin Williams or Jim Carrey, they would spend hours in the mirror just, you know what I mean? Like, and it's no different. And if you do that, what that means is you are totally aware of your body. You're able to feel comfortable in it because you know what it looks. Because a lot of times people are just so nervous and have anxiety because of what other people may be thinking of them.
Yeah,
right?
such a
and
good
if you
point.
don't, if you're already comfortable with all that,
that was one of the first things I noticed about you is you were very particular with the smile, like when it came out. So you would have an ask of somebody, and then as soon as you had this rather big ask, it would be this huge smile, you know, full smile, right? And then you would have another small ask, and then you'd have a smirk with an eyebrow raise. And I can't do it because I have Botox right now, so it's not. This is also a problem. I'll have to try it in the mirror with Botox. But it's a really good point. Like if you're going to go up to a girl in the bar, there's a trick of how to get her, and you just shared it. And then 2, you know, if you're going to engage with somebody and ask them for something, it's like, how do you soften the ask? Do you think about that? Like, if I want something, how can I use my face, my tone, my intonation in order to make the other person want to give it to me?
Wow, that's such a great question. I mean, I'm gonna describe this in magic scenario. Okay, so a magician knows all sorts of different little ways to get you to behave and do something specifically that I want you to do, whenever I want you to do it, okay? And I think, if we're going psychological here, the way to control someone's behavior mostly is to eliminate the motivation from the opposite behavior. For example, if I want to hand you something and I want you to use your right hand, as opposed to going, oh, here, Cody, and it might be a little awkward, I might cut off the motivation for you to use your left hand. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So like, here, let me see if I think I have a pen here. So I'm gonna give you this pen. Actually, is that in the way?
What, this?
No,
yeah.
Yeah, I want to give you this, but no, grab that too.
Oh yeah, right.
Right, and so I just occupied, do you get what he's saying? It's like,
100%.
I just occupied your brain with, is this in the way moving? And this was a silly example that I just came up with right now, but it didn't feel awkward because if I were to give you a pen, if I were to give you a pen like this and I said, here,
I think I'd take,
you would take it with your left hand because it's the closest hand. So I have to cut the motivation off. So what does that mean? It means that if I want somebody to acquiesce to one of my requests, I might, instead of thinking of it like, oh, I really hope you do this, I might eliminate the motivations for them to give me an objection.
That's so smart. You know, I think about it almost from a respect perspective. Like, I remember in my career previously, there were many points where I would be talking, but people wouldn't be listening, or I would, you know, I would feel like they weren't hearing me, or maybe I would talk too much because I felt like I wasn't getting the respect that I wanted, you know? And I think a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah.
And especially maybe in meetings, like what would you do in more of a corporate setting if you were trying to get somebody to actually listen and hear you?
Wow, this is where showmanship comes into play. And this is where theater techniques come in too. And something that I love, and I've been doing it now because in this interview, right, in this conversation, and I did it downstairs right before, is that there's things that vocal intonations, interest. So like if I lean in, right, you're now more engaged.
Yeah.
If I lower my voice to more of a whisper, it's called sotto voce, right? These are like theater techniques. These are performance techniques. So if I tell you something, and then I get really big because I'm super excited about it, it keeps the interest gauge, right, up. And that's what you want. So if you're in a meeting and you want to make sure that people are listening to you, if you're just, nothing is worse, people, nothing is worse than just, slide deck and this monotone, right? Get out from behind the podium. So here's a great example of this. Main Show over Wall Street is your big event. Just had it a month ago. And I was giving a presentation. And I was speaking on reframing and seller financing. And your team emailed me and said, hey, can you send us your slide deck? First of all, I don't even know. I've never put a slide deck together in my life. I'm an entertainer. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I didn't send them anything hoping that they'd forget not asking me again. Like the morning up, oh, okay, you can just bring your slide deck. And I was like, and so the night before the presentation, I'm sitting in bed and like for 5 minutes, I'm like, should I put a slide deck together? Like, I mean, I know how to put a PowerPoint. Like, I know how to do it, but man, and I just sat there and I go, in my brain, that's not what I do. That's not what I do. I'm going to go do what I do, right? And so I made one slide. I didn't even use it. I forgot. So I plugged in my computer and said the title of the presentation. And then I'm like, all right, let's go. And I started engaging with the first row and then, had the whole presentation. But the point in that was, I didn't even have to communicate in that. And then, of course, they're like, you have 45 minutes. And I went 50 minutes. I'm like, what time? I'm like, we went long. Oh, my gosh. And so the point of that is, how do you get people to listen? I'm going back to it. Competence. Knowing what you're going to talk about. For example, with Jordan Peterson, oh, man, I watch his videos on YouTube. They're amazing. And he said before, he's like, if you're going to give an hour presentation, you need to know and be able to speak on this for like 4 hours. Yep. And that's the competence. I think also rehearsal. Like, it seems so silly. Like, I know none of us want to do it, but record yourself, look in the mirror, practice, rehearse, go over it. Like, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have a end point, if you don't have a vision of where you want to be, you're never going to hit it, right? And so if you want to be interesting in a boardroom, what do? Know your stuff, engage, watch other performers. We were talking about this before. I watched, who was amazing to watch? Comedians. Their timing has to be precise. Because if their pause is too long, the audience drops. If they respond too quickly, they don't allow for the audience to react with laughter, and they say the punchline too soon, half the audience, doesn't hear it. So it's constantly listening and watching the audience.
So it seems like a lot of being heard and listened to and respected is actually listening.
100%.
First.
So there's a man named Michael Davis. He's a very famous juggler. Okay, he was on SNL back in the day, big shows, amazing. I was probably 18 or 19 years old doing a show in Lafayette, California at this country club kind of thing. And they hired me to perform for their annual event. 18, 19 years old, I was making $400. I was like, this is amazing. I've made it, And so I do this show and everyone leaves except one guy. And I'm like, oh, hi, he's going to compliment me and everything. And I realized who it was. And I go, oh my gosh, I knew who you are. Oh my gosh. And he goes, good job, kid. He goes, I just have one bit of advice for you. And I said, what's that? He said, listen to your audience they will give you your entire show. Such good advice. So as I'm performing, right, the collective mind is greater than an individual, right? So as I'm performing and I'm doing my shows over the years, if there was a joke, or I'm sorry, if there was like laughter coming out of this section after a certain point in my show, I need to know what was said. Because if it's really funny, then I can use it in my show every night. And now I have a built-in joke that feels off the cuff, but actually came from the audience. So absolutely, your presentation should be catered to the individual audience, because no audience is the same. There's a famous debate amongst magicians is, you know, is there such thing as a bad audience? And the classic answer is no. There's no such thing as bad audience, only bad performers, right? That's not true at all. There are awful audiences. I can tell you, I've been in front of many of them. And I was doing a show in Lake Tahoe, and the audience was quiet. They were so quiet. They weren't clapping. They weren't laughing. They were nothing. It was like crickets. And at one point in the show, I exit stage for a second, and one of my assistants goes, "Oh my gosh, this audience, whatever." And I said, "Do you know why they're quiet?" She's like, "What do you mean, why they're quiet? Because they suck." And I'm like, "No." It's like, "Well, yeah, but no." I was like, "No." I said, "They're cold."
Oh, it's cold in the room.
It was winter. And my theater at the time had exterior walls. And that venue, that theater was freezing. And so they've been up on the mountain. They're tired. They're watching a show. They have the jackets on and they're sitting like this. And they don't want to move.
Oh, no.
And so, but that, I mean, so easily I could have just been like, "Oh, these audience suck," and dismissive. It's no, my job is to take an audience, whether they're bad or good. And if they are bad, my job is to turn them into the best audience they can be. You're not always going to have the best audience. Not everyone's going to be with you 1,000% all the time, right?
Yep.
So it's constantly catering, and my career, my shows are 1,000% that. That's what makes comedians great too, is that they're all the crowd work. People like the crowd work because why? It's genuine. It's real. We want something real.
Yeah.
Right? So that applies in everyday life, in every situation. Be genuine, be present.
You know, you were talking about Jordan Peterson, and it reminded me of one of his lines, which is that the most dangerous person is the most articulate person.
Oh my gosh, completely.
Do you think that's true? And if that is true, how do we increase our ability to be articulate? Is that possible? Can somebody become better at speaking?
Wow. So, yes, they can become better. And something that I've done in the past in different lectures and presentations for magicians was the 5 things that make a great performer. The 5 things that makes a great performer. And it applies to everyone, really, in any of their fields. But number 1 is natural talent. Some people are just gifted. They're able to articulate easier. Maybe they're able to retain more than someone else. Natural talent, right? The second thing is that natural talent is going to give opportunities. Okay, those opportunities are going to manifest, and now you can speak here, you can communicate here, you have a job opening here, whatever that case may be. The third thing is confidence and experience, and that's where that competence comes from. The confidence and the competence only comes through experience, which is doing it over and over again. The fourth thing is hard work. So what's that saying, you know, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard, right? And the fifth thing is gratitude, and I think is actually one of the most important ones. But when you extrapolate that from performing lens, and in general, I have listened to YouTube videos and lectures, thousands of hours. You do videos on like how many books you've read, okay? Like it's gaining the knowledge, but something that I've been doing more so, because I feel like it was like a game, like a achievements, right? Like you read this many books, and it's like, great. I just read on Audible, I listened to 59 books this month. It's like, no. I think it's better. What I've been trying to be intentional about is going through books, reading the same chapter over again, and taking notes, and careful notes. And I think that, to answer the question, you can get better if you focus in on maybe one speech that you like, that you see a presentation, and you focus and you study how someone's so articulate, whether it's on a YouTube video. And I mean, YouTube is amazing because you can just break it down and watch it over and over again. So if you see someone that you're like, hey, I wish that I can communicate like them, watch them over and over again. See what they're doing, right? And I speak this way because I've been doing it for years, but like even there, when I'm giving that interesting information, I'm like, watch them again. My voice changes, you know, how I'm speaking, communicating, my intensity, that all changes. And I think that's what leads to a captivating and more articulate person.
I love that. You know, I was reading up on magic before this, as one does.
Oh, yeah? As one does.
And one thing that I didn't know is, did you know that Charles Manson was a hypnotist? Did you know that?
You are digging deep.
Is that not true?
No, I don't know. I don't know, but I mean...
Charles Manson supposedly was a hypnotist and also hypnotized people in prison, which I thought was fascinating. So then I went down this hypnotist rabbit hole.
Hold on, Times.
Yeah.
You said you were looking up magic. How does mass murder and hypnotism fall in that category? Now I know where you now I know where you group me.
YouTube, wow. Very dark rabbit hole at the end of the day. But I wanted to. I know that you do hypnotism sometimes.
Yeah, I've trained. I've never done it on my own in my own hip show, but I've definitely trained with.
Is that what they call it? A hip?
It's
a hip show?
Yeah, yeah.
How does one train in hypnotism?
Oh my gosh, the induction is the most important part. And it's not unlike reading your audience. That's why whenever you see a hypnotist show, they grab like 30 audience members, right? First, and then they start eliminating them. And at the very end, there may be 6 people left on stage.
Yeah.
And these are the 6 that are the most controllable, the ones that are the most easily suggestible. So everyone can be hypnotized, okay? And think of it this way. Have you ever been, and here's an example of it. Have you ever been driving and all of a sudden you're there and you're like, oh my gosh, like wait, I was zoned out and I just drove wherever it is.
Yes.
That's essentially the same as hypnotism. You're kind of present, but your mind is elsewhere. So you're kind of blocking, you cannot recall anything that just took place even though it actually happened in the physical world, right? So it's the same idea. And some people are more prone to that. Some people are more susceptible to that, right? So if you're really focused and you have caffeine and you're not tired and you are really, you know, energized, that's not going to happen. When does that happen? You've had a long day, you kind of relaxed, and you're just kind of over it, and then you zone out. That's why hip shows start with that. It's like, relax. And you start eliminating the people who maybe are going to be counter to that. And so you don't want somebody with high energy. You want somebody who's a little bit relaxed, and that's why it starts that way.
Interesting. Yeah. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
It made me kind of think about one of the things that you told me about before that I'm not too sure, which is, tell me about what is an empty safe?
So, the empty safe, and I absolutely love this. Why do magicians, and we can branch it to hypnotism, but why do magicians keep their secrets?
So other people can't copy them?
Yeah, okay, business savvy, right? This is a business podcast. She's like, job security, first of all, okay? Yeah. Eliminate the competition. Yes. You can grow your sales. No.
That's not why? What?
That's not why.
Okay.
The reason why magicians don't tell their secrets, okay, is because if the audience knew the secrets, they'd immediately become disenchanted, right? So magicians guard an empty safe, not just to protect these vital, important secrets, but they guard the safe so that other people don't discover that it's actually empty.
Interesting.
Right?
So it's like Santa Claus.
Kind of Santa Claus. I mean, it's like if I have my nephew and my niece is 1 and my nephew's 5, fun age, and you know, my sister's like, I think it might be time to take him to like Disneyland or something. It's like, I don't really want to go to Disneyland, but I would go with him.
Yeah.
Why? Because I get to see it through his eyes. He gets to be enchanted by it all, by the magic of it all, right? And so a magician's job is to keep and maintain that for his audience.
I love that. I actually think about that a little bit with business too, because you know, there's this idea that you should have complete trust, complete transparency with your employees, complete honesty with everything that you do. You know, completely upfront. Like, he's an upfront guy. She's a transparent girl. And I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean? That's such a buzzword right now, transparency, right? I think, I mean, first of all, you could be honest and not transparent in everything. Nothing is fully transparent. I mean, if we want to go, high level, like, does the government have secrets? Yes. Does your employer have secrets? Yes. I love when people like get in feuds on like, the social media about the government is doing this and that. No, well, this person does this and that. And I'm like, bro, you don't even know all the details of your life, right? People lose their jobs, caught off guard. People, their spouses and infidelity, all these things happen, and people are like, what? I didn't know this was happening. And yet you're so sure what's going on in government, like, economical, relations between different, anyways, the point is that I find that really funny. But you can be truthful and also not fully transparent. There should be a little bit of that. And a magician's job, and I would say this is magician, there's a famous quote too that says, a magician is the most honest person in the room. Because I tell you I'm going to fool you, and then I do, right?
That's true.
So I think that if you're honest with your employees and in your business, and I am too, I think that it's what I wanted to tell all my employees is like, hey, if something comes up, you tell me. And so I'm aware of it. And transparency would say, well, I need to tell them everything on my mind. It's like, no, I'll say, okay, I wrote that down. You're gonna have to come back to me in a month. Let me think about that, or whatever have you. One of my employees, she kind of mentioned something to me and I said, not now. I said, but please bring it up next quarter. And you know what she loved? What she loved is I kept track of it. I didn't dismiss her. And as it came to that time, I said, I know we have our conversation coming up.
Yeah.
And when we had that conversation, she goes, that made me feel so good because I was there, I was present with her, and I was being honest with her as opposed to just going, I'm avoiding that or whatnot. So you can be honest without being fully transparent.
I think it's very true. I mean, I think about our business right now, and there's this period in time where everybody wanted complete salary transparency. Remember that? Like the big tech companies were like, we're going to tell what every single person at this company makes. And I remember when that was happening, talking to a friend who was going to do this, ran $1 billion company. And I was like, I think it's an awful idea. Let me tell you why. Yeah. Just feel in your gut right now for a second how it feels if somebody knows exactly what you make right now. Like no matter what it is, it's high, it's low, it's mid, it's whatever. Like how do you feel the second that I know exactly what you make or exactly how much you have in your bank account? It feels a little weird, right? It feels weird. And so if you feel that way and you're pretty evolved on money because you got a lot of it, you've probably worked through scarcity mindset, how are your employees going to feel when they see it? And so I think there is this big belief that transparency is everything, but I like how Robert Greene talks about the fact that, concealment is actually one of the biggest gifts that you can give in some instances.
I agree. That's such a good point. I don't think that everyone knowing what everyone's making, first of all, is that just what you said. Someone who has a lot of money is usually pretty evolved in money. There's this, misapprehension that where like people think that just because you have a lot of money, then they didn't earn it, they don't know anything, it was all trust fund, it's like that's so untrue. Most of the people with a lot of money that I know run small businesses, built something, right? What's the stat? How many are self-made millionaires in this country?
Yeah, 79%.
Yeah, almost 80% are all self-made. They're competent people. They know how to run it. Not everyone, okay, not every single person knows all the intricacies of money. And that's why when people say like, oh, we're going to do a capital gains tax, it's like, you don't even understand what that means, right? Like, it's silly. It's like, you don't even know what that means.
Yes,
and
that's
people who
very
don't,
true.
people go, yeah, we should, are people who don't have any capital gains. And so they don't know what it is. And it goes back to like just being, competent about money and whatnot. But yeah, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Entertainers, oh my gosh, entertainers are so funny. They this happens all the time. Entertainers are talking and everybody's like, oh, I got the best gig, and they're bragging, just like in business, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's good. It's a good paying gig. And it's like, how much? Oh, it's good. It's really paying really good. It's like, how much? No one wants to say. No one wants to say. Why? It's like, because they don't know what's good. Like, they don't know if it's good or not. It's a high paying gig. It's a good paying gig. It's like, maybe for you and maybe for someone else, it's not. But that's not the point. The point is to, one, be able to live, in my opinion, right, is to live within your means, maximize your value to whoever it is, your client, your job, your work, whatever you're doing, right? And that's when you get the most back. And that's learning and meeting people like you, like watching these podcasts, being educated, so that way it's going to serve you best. I hate the scarcity mindset, and I hate this idea that like, oh, well, because you're this or that, then you don't have the privileges everyone else. It's like, forget all that. Because when everybody says like, oh, I didn't grow up with this or whatever, it's like, okay, forget everybody else. Let's focus on you. What are you doing right now? What are the opportunities you have? And how can we make your current situation better? It doesn't matter about everybody else. It doesn't matter. I had this conversation with a friend of mine one time, and she said, you know, she said, you know, I think if Timmy has a bunch of candy, she should share some with Jamal. And I was like, I believe in charitable giving, 100%. I believe in that, yeah. And she goes, well, Timmy should share it. And I said, here's a better one. How about we teach Jamal that if he knocks on doors and says trick or treat, he can make candy that way. Forget Timmy. I don't care about Timmy. I'm focused on Jamal.
Yeah.
That's fast. And, you know, this is a good friend of mine. And, you know, I say that with empowering people who may be thinking that they don't have as much as someone else. It's that comparison mindset. It's like, don't worry about them. Focus on you. How do we get you to where you want to be? But before we can do that, you have to have clarity.
Yeah.
You have to have an end goal.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, you know, one of the things that's interesting that makes me think about this is, you know, everybody's always got an opinion of things. And so, you know, I remember the first time I gave a speech and there was a heckler in a crowd, like somebody who...
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like...
Wait, what does that look like? Okay, not to cut your story off.
Well...
What do you mean heckling you?
Well, so this was, talk about like a bad crowd. So this was, it was it was late at night. Okay. It was what I could only describe as like a mafia bar mitzvah that I was contracted to speak at. It was the weirdest thing I've ever been to. It was in Detroit. Tanner was there. And we're going on at 9:30. It's packed. There's, I don't know, 500, 600 people in the room. It's like kind of like a gala looking thing at a weird country club. And somehow I'm speaking at this event, and I fired my agent after that. But we did. So I'm in this crowd, and it's loud. It's like bumping music. Mm-hmm. They've been drinking for a while, mm-hmm. and so they're excited for you. We're ready to get out there. Now, Alex, you know me. I talk about buying business. Like, I have graphs in my PowerPoint. I have flow charts.
You have a slide deck.
I have a slide deck.
Unlike me, you have a slide deck.
I have a prepared slide deck with like a pointer. And so I'm looking at this crowd and I'm like, oh my fucking God, they don't want to hear this. And so I remember like vividly being like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to get their attention. There's a bunch of them standing in the back, drinking at the bar. They're having a whole different conversation while a couple hundred of them in front are like ready to go because the bar's in the same room. I'm like, this is a nightmare. So I watched the guy in front of me, also with a slide deck. He's just getting murdered, right? He's just like, he's showing the graphs and the returns and everybody's like, yeah, Tom, blah, blah. They're just talking over him. He's sweating. I'm like, this is great. I get to go up after this guy. So anyway, they get off. People are like, you know, when he leaves the stage.
And that was you.
And that, yeah, it was me in the audience. So whatever, then they throw the lights. I go up. And I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to do to handle this. And I had that moment where I'm like, do I engage with a little bit in the front? Do I yell at them? Do I whatever? And I just did the power play. I just stood there. And I was just like, mm-hmm. And then that makes people uncomfortable. Silence, the music's down, single light on. And I just kind of stood there. And I waited until like people start fidgeting in their chairs, you know, so you can tell these people are nervous. They don't know what to do. You can kind of start to see them talk to other people. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, and then finally, I don't remember how many minutes, but it felt like 6 years. I'm trying not to sweat. And in the back, I'm like, you got two choices. You can stay quietly, or you can step outside and be as loud as you fucking want. But we got to pick one or the two. And so, but I was nervous because they could have been like, these are like mafia seeming guys. They could have been like, yeah, fuck you. And then like gone back. Yeah. But I think at least with that audience, what I was thinking, because I could feel them a little bit, totally. I was like, they're tough and they're powerful. And the only way they're going to respect me is if I come off tough and powerful back. 100%. If I like, hi guys, please excuse me, immediate loss.
100%. No, I know those shows. And you have to make that choice. And I think that you made the right choice. And I know those crowds. I work in a casino, and I would say that in the 10 plus years of me having residency in a casino, I've had to kick out 4 people in 10 years, thousands of shows. And the most recent one happened this summer season. And there's this guy who had a lot of drinks, right?
Yep.
And afterwards I told the cocktail waitress, no. Like, he came in with 2 martinis, right? He came in and you gave him another. I'm looking at his table and I could see what you did, anyway. And at one point, he was like, we know how it's done. And like, I don't perform in a very challenging manner. It's all in good fun. And I'd probably be more nervous earlier in my career, but also if I knew he knew.
Oh, right.
Right? But he didn't. He's just saying it because that's what you say at a magic shop. And so then I just said, you know what? It's time for you to leave. And then he's like, I'm not leaving. And so then I told Tony, who's my audio, I just said, Lou pre-show. So now music comes up, I pop my mic off, I kind of go over to them, and the people sitting around them can hear us, but the majority of the audience can't hear this interaction. And I said, it's time for you guys to leave. And then I did the same thing that you just did. I said, they go, no, what's that? And his wife was like really embarrassed because she's like, he just had a lot to drink. And I said, I understand. I said, you have 2 choices. She goes, no, we'll stay. I go, it's past that. You have 2 choices. Either you get up and leave, or security's gonna be here in like 2 minutes and they're gonna escort you off of the property.
Yeah.
She goes, no, we'll stay. I go, those are your 2 options. You don't have any other options right now. I said, so I know it's embarrassing for you. And I'm talking to the woman now because she's like, oh, I'm staying here. And so I was like, I know it's embarrassing, but those are your options. And they eventually got up, and it took some time, and it was a little uncomfortable for the audience, but at the same time, they know that I have their back.
That's exactly right.
I have the audience's back. And of course, what happens every single time, they leave the theater, and then as soon as the door closes behind them, the whole audience
claps.
They're clapping. And something that's interesting, and in your situation is a little bit different because you're speaking at an event where people are buying tickets to my show to see it, is that, it's like, you guys paid money for this, and I respect that. How I pay my bills is by you guys buying tickets to my show. Yep. So you guys are my important customers that I want to make sure that I serve properly. The funny thing is they contact Ticketmaster, they wanted a refund, and I was like, and so box office, do you want to refund this? And I was like, no. I was like, first of all, I record all of my shows, right? And I have a mic, so that way when the house mic is off, we still have it on recording, right?
That's hysterical.
So you can hear the whole exchange.
They wanted a refund?
They wanted a refund, and I was like, no.
That's one of the first, few times I'd be like, and no. Yeah. Also, you need to pay me more. Now I'm mad. Now I'm coming after you. You
think we're going to bill you again.
Yeah.
No, and so those things happen, but you definitely have to make those choices. And the more experience, the things that aren't going to, throw me off. Earlier in my career, with less experience, I would have been like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I handle this? And just a little nervous, and now the show's going to continue. Here's something that I do in a lot of my shows, especially at corporate events or smaller, not kind of my theater casino show. I'll come out, they'll introduce me, Alex Ramon, and I'll start clapping, and I'll just keep clapping. And I'll keep clapping, and it's kind of a funny joke, and people clap, and then they think, okay, it's over, and I'm like, and then they, oh, okay. And it's usually a man that will go,
oh, so you can tell.
And now
he's got an eyebrow raised.
He's got an eyebrow, he's like, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And now it becomes this power play, right? I cannot let him not clap. Because if I do, he now is the alpha in the show.
Weird.
I have to be the one in control. Because the minute that I get this person to do it, they know, look, I'm running this. And I will wait it out because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to start until I'm ready. And sometimes I'm ready based off the audience being prepared, being ready and receptive to the show. So this just happened. I was in Phoenix, and I was doing this gig, clapping, and this guy's like, no. And then what happens is they kind of see, I'm like, okay, you're doing okay, I got you. And then I see the one person, I'm like, there he is. And now I zone in on them. I'm just staring at the guy. And when you make eye contact with somebody, you just dead stare them the whole time. It makes most people uncomfortable because then they're just like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm fine with it. Like, I will sit here and stare you down. And then the whole audience kind of sees that the guy's not doing it. So what happens? All the audience turn on him. And they're like, come on, dude, let's go. We want to see the show. And then eventually they break. And sometimes it's been awkward to where it feels like we've been clapping for 9 minutes. And really, it's maybe only 30 seconds or 45 seconds. It's a really long time. But at the same time, once he does it, then it's like, okay, now we're going to begin. And now he knows and everyone knows I'm in control of the show. I'm competent. I know what's happening, right?
That's a great point, too, because I also think it's like for your everyday life, there's a lot of ways to do these power plays. You're not trying to one-up somebody, but you're trying to establish a certain level of respect, basically, in order to get people to engage. And you can see it a lot in meetings in business, let's say. So you always have a group of people in a meeting, and you can kind of tell like who's typing on the computer and not paying attention, who's got like a look on their face like I'd rather not be in this meeting today. And so even in like a small group of 5 or 6 people, the way to fix that is usually you call them out. You go, oh hey Bob, like, how's it going? You thought about that the other day, didn't you? And then they're like, fucking put the computer down, right? And so it's like, I think darkness always gives to the light. So where can you put some attention on it?
Totally.
And that is how you assert dominance without even realizing. It's like the dog with the paw over your hand.
Right. I mean, calling attention to somebody and putting the kind of social anxieties on them shapes them up real quick, right? And another thing that I've done in my shows and my performances is, just saying, hey, look, guys, I'm here to give you my best. I'm here going to give you my best. I appreciate you giving me your best. And it's like, hey, we're here for a reason and a purpose, and can I be real with you guys? I'm going to be real. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be present. And that's the biggest thing for me and my career now. And what my audience at the meet and greets always say is, because I remember people's names and there's callbacks during the performance and it's very highly engaging. And it's like, I want the audience to know that I did the show for them. It wasn't just a play, same line, same everything. No, I want it for them. And that keeps people who may be uninterested engaged because you can call them out. And here's another thing that I do, which is if you see somebody straying, not kind of paying attention, not unlike what you just said, which was, hey, Bob, right? You had this point.
Yeah.
You praise them a little bit, right? And so if there's a guy who's kind of like watching the show or whatever, a little less interested, I might look at him and go, pretty good, right? Like and all of a sudden I'm giving him
permission.
Yeah. I'm giving him some attention.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And is it the same with hecklers? Like you don't want to give the big hecklers too much attention, but you also have to move them to the side. Like how do you manage trolls live?
Totally. You can't give them attention at all. And most of my heckling, and I really, really, like I said, I don't get a lot of hecklers in my performance and my style. It's just not, I don't get that. The people I've kicked out were drunk. But most of the disruptions that I get, and that's why I don't call them hecklers per se, are just people who are super enthusiastic that are just being a little disruptive and annoying the people around them. Yeah. So they were like, yeah, that's great, Right. And it's like, bro, nothing happened yet. Like settle down.
Do you say that?
No. It's, you don't give them attention. You don't feed them. Yeah. Here's what happens all the time. At the end of some routine or end of a moment, someone will say something really loud like, oh yeah, it's not up your sleeve or something silly. And they think it's hilarious, right? They think it's great. And it's like, oh boy. And I hear it, but I don't call any attention to it. And sometimes they go, oh, he didn't hear me. So they say it again. And I just keep moving on as if I didn't, even though I did. And I avoid them. I don't give them any energy. Because if I look them in the eye and smile, that gives them permission to keep going. So I have to avoid them until I feel that them kind of settle back down. And so you absolutely avoid them. The unfortunate part that happens when you have somebody that's really engaging or being disruptive that wants the attention and the energy is I have to kind of ignore that part of the audience. But there's different techniques that I could do to make sure that they're engaged. So as I'm talking and delivering a line, if I don't want to make eye contact and energy here, I could just include them just with a gesture. So like I could be talking to somebody and I'm like, geez, Tanner's really going off right now. Like I need to rein in on him. I'm not gonna give them permission or smile, but I'm going to say, all right, well, everybody's here. And I could still gesture to them, and that feels, it's kind of a line, right? That includes this section of the audience. But yeah, I don't think that giving them, really what people want is the attention. And by giving them the attention, it gives them permission to keep being disruptive.
Yeah. Have you ever really bombed on a set? Like, have you ever just had like a terrible show?
I did. I never should have been in there, okay? They booked me. It was just like mafia bar mitzvah, okay?
Okay. I've been there. I've been there.
I bombed. Oh, gosh. Oh, man. It was in Miami at the Faena. Now,
it's fancy.
People, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you know the Faena.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. And the person who booked me there, they didn't describe the event well, okay? And because of that, it was like, I shouldn't have been there. Oh my gosh. So what it was like a mixer. They had a DJ, they had karaoke planned, there was drinks in a bar, you know, just people socializing and chatting. And they're like, you're gonna be in the middle of this. And I get there and I'm like, you didn't tell me there was gonna be a DJ or karaoke or a live band. You just said, oh, this is like a mixer for some people. Can you do some magic? And then maybe we'll have it at the front of the room. And it was my fault for like really not diving in. And it wasn't really a paid gig. It was like for a friend, an acquaintance kind of coming in for this event. Anyways, I said, I'll be there, I'll do it. Well, I get there, there's this DJ, loud music going, people shouting at each other on the dance floor, you know? And then the DJ has a mic and was like, okay, you know, we're gonna take a break. You have like 15 minutes to just chill, go get some drinks, do whatever, and please welcome Alex Ramon.
Ooh, big intro.
And I was like, you literally dismissed everybody. You dismissed everybody and then introed me, and I'm walking on and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it just was bad. It was like the longest 15 minutes ever. And I had an agent there for a cruise line that I was working with at the time. She was like the only one paying attention. It's like, because, and I'm like, geez, she's booking me. And I'm like, I promise this isn't how it goes on the ships. It's like, I promise, people pay attention. And I do the show and I have a moment where I engage an audience member. And it was one of those things where I go, I'm never gonna get their attention. So I'm gonna go and do the best that I can for what I'm doing. I also, you know.
Were you sweating? Do you still remember it?
Oh, I still remember it.
Like the first time I bombed on a speech, it stuck with me in a way that I was embarrassed how much it stuck with me. I was like, this doesn't matter. Nobody's dying. We're totally fine. And also, I may be terrible. Everything's falling apart. Yeah. This is the worst moment. Like, did it really sit with you? I get why people are scared of public speaking. Yeah,
I text you're only as good as your last at bat, you know?
Yeah.
And I text my friend that night, and she's a singer, amazing singer, out of Vegas. And I text her and I just was like, I feel awful. And she was like, why? And I said, I just literally bombed at this event and I just didn't, it was bad. And she had seen me before and she's like, really? I was like, yeah, I don't bomb, like it doesn't really happen, but like I bombed. And I go, you know, what is it like when you know, this happens to you? She texts back, honey, I never bomb. That's what
everybody says. I was like, I don't buy it. I do not buy it.
No, not at all, not at all.
Everybody's had that moment on
absolutely.
Stage.
And the only way is to keep going and do the next gig.
Yeah, that is the only way.
And that's what actually
wasn't the next one hard though? I got nervous. I never get nervous. For the next speech, I was like, fuck, you weren't?
I wasn't nervous. I don't remember that. I just was like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And so now, and then I just was in Miami and I drove by for its other event and I drove by the Faena and I'm like, there it is. Like that will sit
I'm not
forever.
Going there.
Yeah, but you know, this actually kind of reminds me of what Tim Kennedy and Bill Perkins, they're all talking about at Main Street Over Wall Street, right? They're all talking about this idea of suffering. They always talk about this idea of like, keep going. It's the persistence. It's the relentlessness of the end goal of keep going. If you are going to allow something, a failure, I don't even use that word. I hate when people use that word. Oh, I had this failure. I failed here. It's like, no. Maybe you had an expensive lesson.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe you had an emotional lesson. But that word failure, I never would use it. Like I never use the word stress. I would never say I'm stressed. I have anxiety. That doesn't sit in my vocabulary. I don't ever verbalize that. It's like, okay, yeah, I feel that there's some intensity here, or there might be some, energy. I need to, focus on something. But I just don't like that language. And if someone faces an obstacle or a failure, right, and that's it, well, how can you ever be successful? How can you ever accomplish anything? That doesn't make sense to me.
Wow. And also, I think it's all the scientific experiment, right?
Yeah.
Like everything in business is just how fast can I make mistakes that won't kill me so that I can learn the next lesson and move forward in the game. That's it. It's like,
don't fail fast.
Yeah. And I think it's not even fail. It's just like make mistakes fast, then don't give up, and don't place that much emotional intention on them one way or the other.
Right. It's like a lot of times people, if they say something like get a bad review or, oh, that sucked, if you take that to heart, I remember, oh my gosh, I got the worst review once. Oh my gosh, I got the magazine, I framed it. So I remember like this guy, I was reading the review and I'm like, this guy sucks. I was like, I'd hate to be him, and it's me. It was in a magazine. So I toured as the ringmaster for Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus. Oh. I was 23 years old, one of the youngest guys in history to ever do it. And I'm not 6'4", middle-aged with a big booming baritone voice, right? And the producers of the show told me, like, look, this show's only gonna work with your energy. You don't have that voice to capture everybody, it's your energy. So I'm running around the arena with energy. All right, let's go New York City. Like that kind of an idea. So I got this review in a magazine, a circus magazine, which, let's be honest, probably has a subscription level about 58. But the point is, they wrote about me like, they're like, this guy's not a ringmaster. He's awful. He has no presence. He has no nothing or anything. And I was 23, and I read this thing and I was like, wow, I'm awful to them. And I accepted the fact that I'm not in their taste. Like, I don't like heavy metal. Not because heavy metal musicians aren't good. It's just that's not my taste.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're not going to be everyone's taste. And you have to be okay with that, right? You have to be okay with knowing that those people don't like me. And the reason they don't like me is because I'm not a traditional ringmaster, right? And then it wasn't till a few months later, they had like people from this club that all come in, and people who wrote at the magazine and all those other things, they came and they kind of met me and us, and I talked to them and I said, you know what? And in my head I'm thinking, I read what you wrote about me, But instead I said, you know what? It is such an honor to be a part of this tradition and being it in a way that I felt welcomed, and I appreciate that. And afterwards I could see the crowd go, I like this kid, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how that works. But you can't let failures or even praises, determine your outlook on what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, where you want to go in life, because, it's just be good, be the best that you can, maximize your potential.
I could actually see you as a ringmaster. I feel like, did they do a version of that now? Was that Hugh Jackman who was the ringmaster of the circus?
Yeah, he played, yeah.
He's like got a similar energy. I guess he is kind of a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
But he's got the
Wolverine.
Smile and the, which you have too.
Yeah, I would say that, well, the circus changed me. It really was. I didn't go to college, right? I went to the best college for the entertainment world. So at 20 years old, I started touring with Disney for 3 years. Then I toured with Ringling Brothers for 2 years. So
what did you do when you were touring with Disney?
I was in a show called Disney Live, Mickey's Magic Show.
What did you play?
I wasn't a character. I
don't know. You say this like obviously, the show. No. Here's the character set.
No, I was doing magic on stage with Disney characters.
Got it.
So it was a magic-themed Disney show.
I immediately thought you were Mickey Mouse.
No, I'm too tall.
You were Alex. Okay.
The first time I was ever too tall for anything was too tall to be Mickey Mouse, which Disney's going to hate that I said that. Anyways, oh man, that's another conversation. Anyways, the point is this. I toured for 5 years all over the world. Wow. And I didn't go to college. I went to tour with Disney at 20. Then by then I'm done with Ringling Brothers. I was 25, had all this experience and performing millions and thousands of shows, millions of people, thousands of shows. And I didn't know what to do because no one's booking me. Because most entertainers, it's either like, most entertainers are giggers. They gig work, right? They do a show here, you book them for this gig and that gig. And no one was calling me to book me anymore because I'd been gone for 5 years touring. But the experience I had was what? Was commanding an audience of thousands at a time, being on TV shows, doing interviews, pitching a product, which was tickets.
Yeah.
And so when I got off the road, I was like, I guess I sell tickets to my show. And that's actually how I began the producing game. So I've produced my own show now for 15 years. And so no one produces it myself. That's like I have the contracts and the leases with the casinos and the billboards and the advertising and all that. Those are my contracts, my payroll, my everything else. Most entertainers are getting a paycheck and then they go thanks and they leave. And so, but Ringling kind of opened my eyes to that, and it changed who I was as a person, individual. It demanded so much of me to just grow. So at 23, it was like, okay, I have the keys to this circus. I'm the one in charge, and I took that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I took that responsibility very seriously. And so, at 23, and there's a cast of over 100. We traveled with 300 people at a time. It was like a little town moving around. Lived on the circus train. It was amazing. Amazing experience.
An actual train?
Yeah.
Wow. What's the craziest circus story you have? I don't even know this about you.
Yeah? No. Craziest? Well, I wouldn't say the craziest. Let's go to the most embarrassing. We were in Texas. We were in Corpus Christi, Texas. Hurricane Alex was coming through. There was a leak in the venue, and there was this puddle in the middle of the arena floor. And I'm the guy with 6 Super Trooper spotlights on me. And I'm like, let's go, whatever, saying my lines, getting them going, and I'm running.
You have a cane and a hat and the whole outfit?
I didn't have a cane and a hat, but I had these really amazing set of tails. The jacket was incredible. It was amazing. I'll show you a photo.
Okay.
Anyhow, I'm running at the beginning of the show, and I jump off this platform. I land on the puddle, and I just start barrel rolling down the arena floor.
No.
And nothing sucks the cool out of you.
Like a barrel
rolling on the ground, and my tails were over my head. And I'm like getting up, like.
What do you do?
You get up and you keep going.
Keep
what are you
going.
going to do? And so that was really embarrassing, but yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you have all the animals too? Are there like tigers and bears?
There was tigers and we had elephants. Ringling Brothers since had, it was an old business model, and they lived on the train, they had animals. A lot of people, got upset with the animals. I personally can only tell you I never saw any animals mistreated. I can only tell you from personal experience.
Yeah.
Whether animals should be in shows or not, that's a different debate. But as far as the treatment, I personally never saw any animals mistreated.
Yeah.
Ringling Brothers just reopened, and now they changed the formula.
Okay.
No animals, no ringmaster, no train. It's a little bit different. It's an exciting show. I was on that.
Who owns that?
So
is that private equity backed?
No, it's a private company. Feld Entertainment is worth about $3 billion.
Whoa.
One man and his daughters own it. They bought Ringling Brothers Circus, who knows, 50-something years ago. Feld Entertainment is a parent company of Disney on Ice, Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey Circus, Monster Jam, Supercross, Motocross, all the big arena and stadium shows. Huh. It's Feld Entertainment. And that's actually where I really learned about business and the business part of the show business, right? And here's something that I love this story. I love this story. And this happened with my friend. So the owner, the CEO of Feld Entertainment at the time was a man named Kenneth Feld. And my friend was sitting with him at a show. I don't know if it was circus or Disney, it was some show. And they have intermission. And there's people selling popcorn, cotton candy, and those light ups, the little wand that spin around with lights and all that stuff.
I used to love that shit as a kid.
Yeah, you love it, right?
Totally.
And my friend said that Kenneth, they're sitting at intermission, they're looking around, they're seeing all these spinny lights going around, and Kenneth goes, "You see that light?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Now these are arbitrary numbers, but the point will be made." He said that cost us $2.25 to make. We sell it for $10. But I just bought the factory, and now it costs us $2.17 per light. It's like an extra, cool $2 million a year or something.
I love that.
But basically,
and when he sees the lights, he sees money.
Yeah, that's right. Oh. And so that was a first, again, arbitrary numbers. Nicole's probably going to text me and be like, "Why did you say that on the podcast?" But the point is made, is that he was such a smart businessman, and the Felds were incredible to work with and work for. I consulted on some of their other productions, and they're incredible people. Anyhow, that kind of opened my eyes to business and acquisition and how they made their money and the merch and everything else, because that's ended up what I did, right? With you as being the person that really also told me to go after it. I mean, I found your content online, your YouTube videos and Instagram videos, and then I joined Contrarian Thinking, and you told me something that was like sage advice, Cody. And you just said, because I'm like, I know showbiz, I know entertainment, I don't know anything about laundromats or HVACs.
Yeah.
And you said, well, look at what you're spending the most money on, and not just try and acquire something to gain the cash flow, but also acquire something that's going to reduce your costs. Yep. And I'm like, duh. And I sell merch, shirts, and hats after my shows. Yep. And so I ended up acquiring a screen print embroidery company. And it was just the exact formula that Feld Entertainment does, is they own these businesses that only serve as verticals to what they're doing, which is their base, which for me is shows.
And now you make all of our merch.
And now I make all your merch.
And what's the name of the company?
Innovative Imprints.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. It's incredible. I mean, I think that's the most beautiful way to do business. Yeah. Is you do a thing that you already love, and you figure out how to make more money surrounding the thing that you love. And then if you're a pro like you buy the company that is already doing the thing as opposed to having to start it up. So I think it's really cool. I loved that story.
Yeah, it's just.
And I bet when you talk to magicians, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
You bought a merch company. You own all your rights. Like that's really rare." But guess what? Now you have all the middlemen out of it. You don't need the agent. You are the agent.
Right.
You don't need the manager. You don't need a third-party merch company. It's you.
Yeah. I actually, it's funny because I did one of the largest magic conventions in the world was in Las Vegas, and we did some print for them, some work for them, and then I had a booth just saying, hey, here's what I'm doing. And a lot of people walking by the booth, they didn't know it was my booth, number one, and they saw me like, hey, what are you doing? I go, oh, this is my booth. I own the company. And they're like, oh, so you're not performing anymore? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, this is my side hustle. My side hustle happens to be, seven-figure business, but like, hey, it's fun. But it's really cool. And I have magicians who I consult. I don't really have a mastermind or anything like that, but there's a lot of magicians who will regularly schedule like Zoom calls with me to ask about advice and things about growing their business and performing.
I love that.
And so I think entertainers are notoriously awful with money.
Yeah.
That's why we hear so many actors, athletes, all these celebrities, and they're broke. And you're like, how did that happen? First of all, that is just such mismanagement, and it's sad because people, well, a lot of it is living beyond your means, but also just not being smart enough to know how to handle it. Yeah. And people think like, well, here's an entertainer's strategy, right? Strategy on money. I'm going to get famous enough to where I make enough money that I don't have to worry about money.
Yeah,
that's like the worst strategy ever. It's not even a strategy. It's a dream. It's a fantasy.
Did you watch the Vince McMahon documentary?
No.
Oh my God, you got to watch it. First of all, fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That guy, like the stories about that
I've seen like little excerpts from it, but I haven't watched the whole thing.
It's so good. I think I'm only like 3 or 4 episodes in, and I don't know if I'll watch the rest, but the first part is fascinating because that dude, I get why he is a billionaire multiple times over with the WWE, and I get now, I wouldn't do it all the same ethically, but it would be so funny. He'd be like, he was talking in the interview, and he'd be like, well, what was happening on stage, because he was one of the very first entertainers that was also the owner while simultaneously performing.
Being a character.
Like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so he would be saying, well, at the time we bought this company, we're doing XYZ. And then on stage, the idea was I was having an affair, with my mistress and whatever. And he's like, storyline, because he was talking about that's not real life. That was part of this character set. But what I thought was fascinating is looking at their business model. I mean, they owned everything. They owned the rights. Right. They owned all the licensing. They had royalties on all their gears. They bought their competitors. And despite him being a little bit of a crazy person, brilliant execution. And we don't see that enough in entertainment. So I think that's so interesting.
Not at all.
It's such a good watch. That and the Martha Stewart documentary are incredible.
Yeah, those are really, really, because so many people can get like caught up with what you're saying, kind of like the ethics of things. Like, oh, I don't like that guy. It's like, okay, let's remove him for a second and see what he does. See how he does it. See what the execution is. see his thought process, right? Because we're not going to agree with everybody all the time. And that's no, it's not defending him in any way, because I haven't even seen the documentary. But definitely it was, for me, one of these obvious acquisitions in these verticals that now my deal box and what I only look at is something that's going to serve the foundation of what I do, which is entertainment and showbiz. So all of my acquisitions are verticals, as opposed to going, well, what can I do now? What can I do now? And being split and divided. It makes sense. I'm familiar. I'm aware. This is going to serve me this way. And I also love, do you know the story about Jay Leno? The Jay Leno strategy?
Tell me.
I saw Jay Leno do an interview or read an interview about this, and I was mind blown. And I'm like, Jay Leno is a genius and my, hero. So Jay Leno, so he was the host of The Tonight Show for over 20 years, like 22 years, I think, something like this. He's never spent a dime of his Tonight Show money. Huh. And in 20 years, he was paid over $300 million. So he began his career as a comedian, but he also worked at like a car dealership, right? Because we know him now, he loves collecting cars, and he has this Jay Leno's garage and all this stuff. He has hundreds of cars and motorcycles and whatnot. So when he was beginning his career, he would pay all his bills with comedy, right? And the dealership was the money he banked, okay? That was his side hustle. That was his thing. Then as he got more and more famous, he realized, well, I can also afford my lifestyle with the cars and selling them, buying them, collecting them, whatever it is, and that can pay my bills. So he began to save all of his performance money. So by the time he got The Tonight Show, he was paying all his bills and he was living just off of the cars.
Wow.
And he still did gigs though, and he still did shows. So even at The Tonight Show, he would regularly do comedy clubs, even when he had The Tonight Show. And it's this idea that, we have multiple streams of income, multiple streams, right? Have all these things. It's like, I love that. I don't want streams. I want a river, right? So let's get your river first. Once you have a river, then get your other streams. And I think that so often people try and just, they hear this buzzword from, whether it's influencers, whatever it is, oh, we need streams. It's like, yeah, that's after a certain point. Once you can, once you know how to handle money, once you know what you're going to do with it, then you diversify.
I love that. I kind of want to close out with two things. One is, we haven't talked a ton about negotiation, but you're very good at it. I want to talk a little bit about reframing and maybe Taylor Swift.
Oh, jeez. I love that Taylor Swift story. I knew that was coming. So reframing is essentially a negotiation. And the idea is this: if I present you with a deal point and you have an objection, okay, the reframe is to present you another option while addressing your objection, but still making the same request. I'm still getting the same point, right? That's a part of the negotiation. So here's what happened with Taylor. I'm working, consulting with Taylor Swift on Blank Space, and it was for her world premiere performance on the American Music Awards. And so this production company in LA, they called me to consult on this performance, and they wanted this magic effect. And so what I came up with was the flaming rose. The flaming rose essentially was, she had this beautiful red rose burst into flames, and it stayed beautiful and pristine. She grabbed a petal from the rose, touched the fire. She's holding fire in one hand, the rose on fire in the other. Oh. It's amazing. BuzzFeed named it the top moments of the AMAs. It was really great. At the end, rehearsals, not so great. So what happened? I came in, and the first day I'm teaching her how to do this trick. It's not working. Like, I can do it, but it's not working for her. And that's no knock at her. It's just that the prop wasn't, and it's more of a special effect than a magic trick, okay? Yeah. And it's just not working. She's moving and she's walking. There's people around her. There's a lot going on. It's just not working. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're coming over to me like, hey, what's going on? Right? Like, they're paying me. I'm consulting. This is a big deal. This needs to work. Why is it not working? And immediately I have to reframe the situation. So instead of going like, hey, Alex, this isn't working. What's going on here? As soon as they came over, I'm like, okay, I need to own it. And they say, hey, Alex, it's not working. I said, I know, I don't want it to work. I go, I don't want it to work. I said, I want it to fail all during rehearsals. That's what rehearsals are for. So that way, we troubleshoot all those things, and it works on Saturday. I don't care if it works today. It has to work Saturday. Wow. And I'm like, we got to fix this thing. So that night,
I am totally going to use that.
That night, I'm like,
Tanner's like taking notes for every time I'm yelling about YouTube.
You like that? Yeah. Now you know where she got it from. And so I was like, oh man. And that night, I'm like, we got to fix this thing. And so, okay, day 2, day 3, it's working. Okay. And so finally, got through that first bit. Recording one of the rehearsals. Dancers are there, all the things. She now does the trick, the rose on fire, her hand, she's holding fire, and she goes, ah, and drops this thing. Now, it goes without saying, there's a little gimmick in her hand that allows her to hold fire, okay?
Yeah.
She burned her hand.
Oh, shit.
She drops this thing.
You burned Taylor Swift?
Indirectly.
Oh my God, the internet's coming for you.
So what happens is she drops this gimmick on the stage, on the ground of the rehearsal studio. The floor is on fire. One of the dancers is stomping it out. The playback stops the playback. Everybody's going, oh, oh. And I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh. And I'm like, they're going to fire me. They're going to fire me. And so now there's like 30 people surrounding Taylor, and I hear, Alex. I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, Alex, did you? And I kind of walk into the circle, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to fire me. She goes, did you put more lighter fluid on this? Because it was so much more hot that time. Like, it was really hot, not like the other time. And I'm like, they're gonna cut this. Because it didn't work the other day. Now it's working. Now she burned her hand. Like, they're gonna pull this. So first I said, are you okay? Number one, are you okay? Like, physically, let me see your hand. Like, you're fine. Do you need attention? Do you need medical assistance? What do you need? She goes, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. I said, okay. And since I knew they were gonna cut it, I cut it. So I was like, first of all, you're holding this incorrectly. There's a lot going on, and you need to hold it this way, like I told you to. But you have a lot going on. This is really too difficult for you. I said, we need to give you something easier that you can do, because you're having a lot of trouble with this. It's just a little too hard, and maybe something easier is better for you. So we could do something easier. We'll cut this. We'll do something else. And if you tell somebody who is that accomplished and that amazing and that talented, this is too hard for you. And she goes, no, I could do it. And I go, I don't know. I think we need something easier. We need something definitely easier for you, because this is too much. Well, as opposed to them pulling it and me losing the gig, I did. Why? Well, it shifts the frame of what's going on. So then she says, no, I could do it. Everybody leaves. They go, let's take 15, and they all leave. And then, choreographer and director comes to me, they go, what is going on? And I said, look, she knows her song. It's a hit. She doesn't need to practice that. She knows the choreography. The dancer knows the choreography. She's just not focused on this because she has so many other things going on. And so everybody left. And for probably 2 days, for an hour, 2 hours a day, it was like me, Taylor, and Chris just rehearsing this. It was just the three of us. They released everybody. I said, you need to get everybody away. We just need to drill this. And so they did. And so what ends up happening is I said to her, you need to do everything with intention. Everything with intention. And so we rehearsed it. It worked great. That night, probably, if you want to talk about nerves, the most nervous I ever been in my career was like this. Because I'm not doing it. I can't do anything. And so Taylor, they had her in this table, and they're flying her up 20 feet in the air. And I have this rose, and I preset it. And they're like, you need to clear the stage. I was like, no. I said, I'm the last person off this stage. You have a problem, talk to her. I need to set this. It is so exact. And so I'm waiting there, and she's ready to go. It's right, Pitbull's all right, welcome to the, and I'm sitting there on stage, and I go, Taylor? And she looked at me, she goes, with intention, with intention, with intention. And I go, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I was like, it's an honor to work with you. You deserve everything you have. You're gonna kill it. Amazing. And she goes, oh my gosh. And so, she did it. It went great. People loved it. And, but those are examples of how to take a situation and own it, right? But it does take a certain skill to be able to do that quickly, be able to anticipate what the other person, be it a seller or somebody you're in negotiations with, what they're anticipating, what they're thinking. See, because in magic, the best way to fool you is to know everything that you're thinking. See, if I know what you're thinking, I know how to fool you because I know what you're suspecting. So magicians have clever ways to create a reality, a perceived reality, for their audience to be forced to think a certain way, right? And so that way, once I take you down that path, I lead you down that rabbit hole, I know, well, I can fool you this way because I already know what you're thinking. And so it's anticipating what a seller or someone, whoever you're negotiating with, is going to object to. A lot of my contract negotiations with the casinos or different producers or promoters in shows, whenever we're in the negotiation, I always anticipate all of the oppositions. So like, I want more money. Well, I'm not going to present why I want more money. I'm going to present and prepare based off of what are all the reasons they're going to say no to that. So if I know all their counter arguments, then I'm better prepared to them. You know, it's just like knowing. Oh my gosh, I just forgot the book with
Chris Voss?
Not well, Chris Voss, but it's the. Oh my gosh, no, I just blanked.
It's not Never Split the Difference. Okay.
Not Never Split the Difference. No, I love that book. That's great.
Yeah.
But it was Art of War.
Oh yeah, Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, right? Art of War, right? Is that know the enemy, know the oppositions first before you present your case. I learned this in speech and debate when I was in high school. The best class I ever took, creative communications. And so it was me presenting all their oppositions, knocking them off. Because most people are always playing, you know, offense, and they're going, well, this is why I'm right, this is why I'm right, this is why I'm right. So one of my negotiations with a promoter for a casino one time looked like this, is that I said, okay, and I learned as I came in and I said, this is what I want, X amount. And they were like, no. They just said flat out, they go, no. But I was prepared. I go, well, you're thinking that you're going to pay that. No, you're not going to pay that. I don't want to take money out of your pocket. That's not what we're going to do. This is how we're going to structure. This is how we're actually going to do the ticket prices. These are going to be the levels. These are going to how it's going to be, and based off of ticket sales, based off of our sales reports, based off of this many the years that we have, and the volume of whatever the seasonality. Like I did all the calculations, and I said, and this is without any growth. And we already saw like a 17% growth in ticket sales from year 1 to year 2. So essentially, I'll get what I want, and I just made you X amount more dollars. So I don't want you to pay for that from me. Now, what I learned is I need to lead with that rather than just saying what I want right away. Because I said, this is what I want, and they're immediately turned off. Then I addressed them. And they're already in that.
They're dug into their position.
Like, no.
They're entrenched. Yeah.
Right. And
right,
what I should have done is saying, hey, here's the idea that I think will make us both happy.
Yeah.
If we do this, essentially, I'll make this and you'll make that. That's the better way. I should have done it. But that was a learning curve. And I did that when I was like 26.
Yeah.
And that was like really an early on negotiation, one of the first negotiations I had with a promoter and a residency. And so those things,
You've lived such a fascinating life. What question have I not asked you that you think I should? What story should I be asking for that I haven't asked you about?
Well, I love the idea of misogi, and you've talked about this a lot, right? It's this Japanese, this cultural idea that says you need to do something that's really difficult and challenging for you every year. Something that the probability of you failing is high. Maybe 49%, maybe 10, but it's possible that you're not going to be able to accomplish this goal. And I started doing this years ago, and I didn't, without realizing it, because I never heard of that. And then someone brought it up, and I go, oh my gosh, fascinating. And something that I did a couple years ago was the most difficult and challenging stunt of my career. I did an escape called cold shock. 100-pound weighted vest was chained and shackled to my body. I was then dropped into 39-degree ice water. And I had to hold my breath in the ice water and pick 3 locks, remove the locks, remove the vest underwater, and then come back up to breathe again. And originally my idea was, I'm gonna fake it. I'm gonna get some fake ice, we'll gimmick the thermometer, whatever. Because I've done underwater escapes. We're gonna live stream it, we'll just fake it, right? And then as I looked into it, it's like, well, fake ice it's acrylic, it sinks, it doesn't float. Oh, okay. So I went to a movie production house in Burbank that was like, or Van Nuys, and they like did all of the movies that Pirates of the Caribbean, 007, any ice and snow thing, this is the company. I was like, so I want to do this set, and then he's like, well, you can get this paraffin wax and set it, dress it up like this, or, oh, here's this really good stuff that looks exactly like ice, but it was like rubber. I go, but the problem with that is that it doesn't sound because it's rubber, and then also it kind of disintegrates.
Oh.
I go, this is going to cost me how much money to do this thing? And I'm just thinking about this because I had this idea, like, what if an underwater escape, what if like the easiest part of the underwater escape is holding your breath underwater, right? Because everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're underwater for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is. What if that's the easy part? Wow. So I thought this ice water challenge, and I spoke with some guys and they said, I've never heard anybody doing this before. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna fake it. And then I realized, I think I have to do this. And I remember telling my friend Jim, I said, I think I have to train for this. And he said, you're kidding. I was like, no, I really think I have to train for this. And I'd been doing underwater escapes, like I said, for years, but the cold exposure, I started training, and I trained for about 10 months. And I used Wim Hof breathing techniques. But Wim Hof isn't good for breath holds. Wim Hof is just cold exposure.
Really bad for breath holds.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
and
die immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I actually contacted a level 3 Wim Hof. He was near me in Lake Tahoe, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he turned me down. Because I said, I just want to train with you. He goes, what are you doing? I go, well, I want to do it for this. He goes, no. And he refused to work with me. And I'm like, bro, like, I just need the cold exposure. I'm going to do free diving techniques, which is different for the breath hold, but the cold exposure, I need these. He just, nope. And I was like, am I crazy? Like, and what ends up happening is I do the stunt, we live stream it. It's on YouTube somewhere, and it's on my channel. It's on YouTube. And I was underwater.
We'll link it on the YouTube video.
I was underwater a little over 2 minutes. But the point of this was, so many people asked me, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? And the most obvious answer is to say, well, marketing, publicity, right? I'm doing a stunt to get some eyes. It's like, that's not why I was doing it. The reason why I did it is because I had this idea in my head, and I thought, I have to try this. I have to do this. And I actually secretly love when people go, you can't do that, right? There's no way. Why would you do that? That's crazy. You're going to be tired. You're this. Something that I always said, even when I was on circus and I was working and I was performing and 3 show days, doing all these things, and people go, are you tired? I say, not yet. I said, not yet. There's a time to be tired. And it doesn't mean I don't rest. But that was the whole idea. And so I did cold shock because I couldn't not do it, right? And if I had any life philosophy, it would be this. I said, I wake up every day thinking the greatest thing that I'm going to accomplish in my life, I haven't even done yet. Yeah. And if you live that way with that excitement, that enthusiasm, you're like, I wonder what I'm going to do now. Oh man, I'm super stoked, right? You're launching a book and you're like, my book's about to come out right now, all the focus, and you're so excited. And one day, this big book launch that you're about to release, Main Street Millionaire, right, is going to be one of the least of your credits.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
How cool is that? So I don't even, like you just said, like I didn't even know you did Ringling. Yeah. It's like, I don't even credit that anymore because I've done, but yet it was huge.
Yeah, it's not on the first page of the resume.
It's not on the first page of the resume. And
I love that idea. So you have a resume so long that the first page is almost, it's only your last couple of years.
Right. And that's only comes from pushing, I think.
Could you have died doing that stunt?
So what ended up happening, well, I wouldn't have died because I had paramedics there. So we set it up, but I did speak with...
What do you mean you wouldn't have died? Like, couldn't you have drowned and they couldn't have gotten you out fast enough?
No. You're not going to drown that fast, that quickly.
No.
What would have happened, here was the biggest challenge was that when you're in that cold of water, you have about anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes before all of the blood leaves your extremities and covers your vital organs. So the most difficult part wasn't a race to see how long I could hold my breath and get out. The race and the challenge came, how long is it going to take until I start losing mobility in my extremities?
And fast, because you got to use your little fingers.
Right.
Oh my God.
So the first time I rehearsed, what we did is we had the water level to about to my eyebrow level. And so if I ran into trouble, I could just lift my head up and breathe. And so I had a safety partner training with me all through training. My brother-in-law Blake was there, and he was an amazing guy. He's like Chris, dude. Like, they would be best friends. And so Blake was there, and it was so cold and immediate that I couldn't feel the keyhole to put the pick inside the keyhole. And I had this big weighted vest on, and I couldn't feel it. So I'm under there, and I start panicking because I'm just like, wait, I can't even begin. I can't even start. And I lift my head up and I go, get me out of here. And like, we have video in one of the training, like he literally, you know, he's a big guy. And so he's like lifting me out of this tank of ice water. And I'm like, I can't feel anything. And so I had to change and adapt the tank. And that was something that I wasn't expecting. I was like, okay, it's gonna be cold. I need to be able to, and also ice floats. And so the coldest part of the entire tank was concentrated around my head.
Oh God.
So it's basically, you put an ice pack on your head, but it's literally ice on my skin. And so,
oh, that feels awful, because that's for like 30 seconds you could barely handle. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I was underwater for a little over 2 minutes. I think it was like 2:15 or 2:20, something like that. And so I had to adjust that tank, but that was something I wasn't accounting for. And I think the stunt was cool and all, but if there's a video of the training, the training video is actually more interesting than the stunt, if I'm being honest. And so anyhow, no, I couldn't have died really, because they could have reached in, because there was no lid.
Yeah.
I wasn't locked in, I was being held down.
Yeah.
And so it's like a diver, right? They have weights on them. So if you release the weights, you'll go back up.
Okay.
So it would have been more about making sure that
you still had fingers.
Yeah,
like
I could
small, tiny little detail.
Yeah, feel it.
Does your family think you're fucking crazy? Like when they like, are they like, what did we do to Alex when he was a young boy?
My dad thinks it's great, but he's also very cautious. He's like, okay, be safe. My mom hates it.
Yeah.
She'll like leave. Like if I do the water tank escape.
I would leave too. I think now even just being your
leave.
friend, I'd be like, I'm out.
I don't like it, and she'll like leave. Yeah, but it goes back to those things where I'm like, I could do this, you know, and I like when people, part of what fuels me too is someone going, you can't do that, no one does that. And it's like, I'll almost prove it to you. This might be like, you know, I'm just, maybe I'm just a little bit stubborn, but it's like, I'll almost prove it to you despite you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I wasn't going to do it, but now I'm doing it.
I really am.
I've got that same sickness. People are like, why do you keep doing the thing that you do? I'm like, I just think of all the things my haters have ever said, and it just makes me want to be bigger and build more. So
and that's truly what it is. And people are like, I'm doing a tour next spring called 50-50-50. I'm doing 50 shows in 50 states in 50 days.
Okay. I'll take the ice bath, honestly, for the love of all that's holy.
I did a few years ago when I turned 35, a tour called 35 and 35. It was the same idea, 35 shows, 35 days, 35 different cities. And I was like, that was cool. Like my bird, I was like, I'm gonna do this thing. And then as soon as I came up with that, 5 years ago almost, I was like, you know, it'd be cool, 50-50-50. And I was like, oh man, now I gotta do it. So if I had the idea, I got to do it. And I've told people this, and they go, that's insane. 50 states in 50 days. And I'm like, people could do that. And there are people who've done like marathons like that. There are people who've done like bike rides in all states and all these things. And it's like, why not? Why them? Why can't I be that person? Why can't you be that person? Why can't you be that person? You have something in mind? Do it.
Yeah.
You're right, do it. Like, because again, the greatest thing you're going to do in life, you haven't done yet. You haven't even done. So how exciting is that?
Yep.
Like,
reason to keep living. All right, Alex Ramon, you're the man. Should we do a little magic?
Okay, you want to do? We didn't even do a trick. We
have to do one.
We
have to do one trick.
I think we're both long-winded, so we could be here all day.
I'm enjoying myself, honestly. It's not for them, it's for me.
Let's do something.
What do you think?
Okay, and we talk a lot about magic. Okay, we talk a lot about influence, suggestions. Okay, I have a deck of cards here, and I want you to think of a card in a deck of cards, but don't think of just the suit. Okay, think of the value. More importantly, the value. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. Just the value. Okay, I'm gonna try and suggest something to you. with this value, I want you to think of a card that is an important card, maybe powerful, something strong, something like this, okay? But it could be any value you want. You could choose the 2 if you wanted, but something that you feel is a strong card that you're connected to, okay? Do you have that value?
Yeah.
You? Okay, and what is that value?
King.
The king. The king, not the ace.
I thought about the ace too.
You thought about the ace, but not why not the king? Why not the ace and the king?
Because you said powerful, so I thought maybe it should be the king.
Do you play cards?
No.
Yeah, you would be awful at poker because
that's not the highest value.
Yeah, that's not the highest value. So okay, a king.
Okay.
Now what suit would go with that king?
Spades.
The king of spades.
Yeah.
You could have chose the ace of spades, but
oh, the ace of
no,
spades.
no, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Hey, look. Here's the deal. I was trying to suggest to you something.
Yeah.
And obviously, I didn't do a good job because I said powerful cards, and I was just hoping you would have said like an ace. Okay.
I thought
so
about an ace.
You thought about the ace? No. Well, what I did is I put all 4 aces face up, so in case any suit that you said, I was ready to go.
Shit.
Okay. But see, I was suggesting that. That's the ace of diamonds, and you said the king of spades. So you could have said any ace at all. The most powerful cards, and you didn't.
Because I don't know how to play cards.
Well, you're not easily suggestible.
Oh, really?
Or are you?
Probably.
Because these 4 aces I turned face up in the deck, but they came from a different pack. They came from a red deck of cards. And I wrote on them. I wrote the
Get out of town.
King of
Get out of town!
Spades.
What? I was so nervous that I fucked up the magic trick. You know this is my fear.
So is it easy to negotiate with Codie Sanchez?
Apparently, yes. Remind me to never do a deal with you. God, that's so cool.
I always come with a gift for you.
You're the best. Don't do that.
No, I have something, and I just noticed on your stories that right now, Choose Your Hard is like what people are really resonating with, right? And because of that, I think getting a little Choose Your Hard gym towel.
This is sick.
Choose Your Hard gym towel.
Oh, this is
a
so
way to go.
good.
So
And it clips onto my gym bag?
It clips on your gym bag. We got a little contrarian thinking, Atlas man. Choose Your Hard.
Dude, I'm into this. Tell us in the YouTube comments if you guys think we should make merch with Choose Your Hard. And if you guys want one. This episode is super, super important. How to pick big problems. If you aren't solving big problems, you won't make big money. When you find a problem, that's where the money is. That's not a mindset, by the way, it's a skill set. Big, hairy, solvable. This is where most scaling problems and opportunities live. This is the exact moment where most people run, and thus you get to lean in. Important. This is the Big Deal Podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. Welcome back. Today we're talking to you builders about how to make more money. The truth that we have today is if you aren't solving big problems, you won't make big money. And I wish I had heard this sooner, that if you want to make more, the easiest way is to find the hardest game and to play it. You know, the truth of the matter is in business, you're always going to have problems. If your business doesn't have problems, it's probably dead. So I want to teach you a framework I use that helps me find the right problems that will make you lots of money. And this is why what I'm talking to you about is so critical today. If your business picks the wrong problems to focus on, you will lose all your money and not make any more of it. If your team picks the wrong problems, you're dead. And if you as an employee pick the wrong problems, you'll never make more money. So this episode is super, super important. How to pick big problems. Oftentimes we run away from big problems, right? We want to beat our head against the wall when you come up to them. But I think this story started to reframe it totally for me. So a few months ago, Mark Andreessen was asked why Elon Musk is able to build rockets, electric cars, brain chips, tunnels so effectively. And whether you like his politics or not, the answer was so good. Mark said simply, what Elon does is he shows up every week at each one of his companies. He identifies the biggest problem that the company's having that week. He fixes it, then he finds a new problem, and he does that every week for 52 weeks in a row. It's a relentless problem loop. Simple in theory and brutal in practice. It requires proximity, so a willingness to actually live inside or right next to friction. And most people don't operate that way. Most companies definitely don't. Problems are treated like biohazards. Stay away. Okay, so rule number one, we are going to reframe. I no longer want to hear you say in your business problems. Instead, we're going to say, there's a growth opportunity. Here's the truth of the matter. When you find a problem, that's where the money is. The second you find a problem, you should be like, oh, wait a second. This was a bottleneck in the way of the flow of money funneling to me. It sounds woo-woo, except it's real. We're going to process them, redirect them, and then we're going to actually welcome them. This is different than what the rest of corporate America does, because we've become professionals at problem avoidance. But at SpaceX, they do the opposite. They send a 400 square foot skyscraper into the sky, knowing full well it will probably explode spectacularly, publicly. But they want to know exactly what breaks, when, and why, because every failure will help incapacitate dozens of future problems. So Andreessen describes Musk's idea as something like this, like incredible devotion from a leader to fully, deeply understand what the company does, and being the lead problem solver in the organization. And that last part really matters, the lead problem solver, because it isn't really glamorous. I mean, if you understand this, you know the uncomfortable truths is that as a founder, you're going to do the thing that no one else wants to touch. That's it. But that's where all the leverage is. What you earn usually reflects what you solve. And that's why like prioritization, which sounds kind of fluffy, is actually super, super important. If you let low-level problems become what you do, you get low-level pay. You have to be able to outsource the low-level problems, otherwise you'll never be able to build rockets. Now, you don't need to like Elon to understand this, I don't think. You don't need to agree with him. You don't need to launch rockets either. In a $3 million HVAC business or a 20-year-old manufacturing brand, one constraint, one fixable pricing model, one key hire, one broken ops process can change the trajectory of the entire company. What you probably do need to do is move toward the problem that's going to move the needle. I want you to think about it like this. On the left-hand side of the graph, up and down, you have your earnings size, how much money you can make. On the right-hand side of the graph, you have the problem size. I want you to realize that they're directly correlated. The bigger the earnings potential, the bigger the problem. The smaller the earnings potential, the smaller the problem, and vice versa. So we are going to actually figure out how to prioritize problems using what I call the problem prioritization matrix. It's a mouthful, but this is what I use. So Brad Jacobs has built multiple billion-dollar companies in logistics and just about everywhere. He wrote a book called How to Make a Few $1 Billion, which I thought was cute. But what I love is he talks about this in a very specific Brad-only way. So Brad says, essentially, think of M&A, so mergers and acquisitions, something we talk a lot about, is having four quadrants. This is the same for any business and any problem. They're defined by size and risk. So first, you can see on the graph, if you go to YouTube, you have big, low-risk deals are the ones everybody wants, right? You can make a lot of money, but not a lot of risk. But they don't actually exist. The second is small, low-risk deals. They exist, but you can't make much money from them because of their size. Then you have small, hairy deals. That's the worst quadrant. That's like they're not going to make you much money and they have a ton of problems. The reward is super limited. The odds are stacked against you. So why bother? The bingo, what you are looking for in your business, is the big, hairy deal. If you can find a big, hairy deal with solvable problems, that's where the real money is. And Jacobs didn't win by being perfect. He won by getting really good at solving the right problems. So he's like, I'm not surprised when things don't go perfectly. That's kind of the nature of this thing we're doing. That's not a mindset, by the way. It's a skill set. Big, hairy, solvable. This is where most scaling problems and opportunities live. Now, you don't want it to be fatal, not unsolvable. We're not looking for like cancer solving. But you hit growth and suddenly your cash conversion cycle turns sour. Your ops leader is underwater. Your CRM looks like it was built by a bunch of rabid raccoons. You've got customer demand, but no clean way to deliver. Revenue's up, morale's down. Your systems scream at you every time you find 5 new clients. You guys, those aren't problems. That's not failure. That's actually your growth unlock. Every time you find one of those, you should be silently thanking yourself, because Jacobs would argue, and so would I, that this is the exact moment where most people run, and thus you get to lean in. So if you want to win, you have to rearrange your brain to lean into those big, hairy problems and figure out how to cut off the hair and de-risk, he would say. That's the job. Not avoiding the hard problems, but identifying them and selecting the right ones to solve. By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself. So I like to take every single problem that I have and put it in that quadrant. I need to hire a new administrative assistant to answer email. Well, it's kind of like a small problem with a small reward. Okay, that's fine. I could spend a small amount of time on it. I need to find an entire new exec team because my exec team isn't functioning right now. Well, that's actually a big, hairy problem. But if I figure it out, holy crap. I spent 6 months looking for the president of this company, Contrarian Thinking. I spent $80,000 on the search just for the recruiter to find him. And the reason I was willing to spend all that time and all that money is because I knew when I found him, even if I paid a lot to find him, and then I had to pay him a lot, that one person would lock my entire business. So I like to do this to myself. I'm like, every time I get a problem, I'm like, self, remember, it's funny, like how people get upset about finding problems in their business. That's what business is. It's constantly finding and solving problems and learning to enjoy the process. If the issue is real but solvable, keep going. I think most business owners waste years trying to avoid these moments, and the best ones move towards them. I have our teams use this matrix all the time. Print this out, put it up on the wall, have them categorize their own problems and only solve the big ones. I constantly am asking my team, why are you in here? Steve Jobs was actually really famous for this. He was famous for holding a meeting. A bunch of people would be in there. And then he would look at somebody, and if they weren't adding value and it didn't seem like they were relevant to the meeting, he would say, what are you doing in this meeting? Which seems kind of rude. But actually, what was he doing? He was freeing them up to leave if it wasn't relevant to them. He was saying, this isn't your problem set. So for instance, here's how I did it this week. I literally this week was working on some funnels that we have for one of our businesses. So most businesses have some sort of funnel that leads to a product. You get your original lead and you move it through the process until they finally buy. Well, a lot of times if you're talking to executives, they name all these different reasons why stuff is going on. But I start with this multi-step process. First, name your potential problems. Okay, so we listed out every single problem that marketing had. Then we picked the biggest one to solve. How? We wrote down how much money we could drive from each one, and we wrote down how much cost we could have from each one, and we wrote down all the potential solutions. So this is called the RICE formula. So this model helps organizations make better data-driven decisions by scoring based on 4 key factors: reach, impact, confidence, and effort. But I changed mine to revenue. How much money will this problem that I solve make me? Impact. How much cost impact will we have for doing this? Like, how much will it cost me? Confidence. How much confidence do we have or you have in your estimates? Like percentage or decimal reflecting certainty. So like if you're 80% confident, that's 0.8. And then effort. How much total work, personal months, weeks, or hours will this initiative require? So let's use an example. So a RICE score. Let's say here that you have a revenue opportunity of $1 million. You put $1 million up front minus the cost, $500,000. You put that all in parentheses times 0.8. I'm 80% confident in both of these numbers, the revenue I can drive plus the cost. Then I divide all of that by 4 because I think it'll take me 4 weeks to do. That gives me a score. Now, every single thing that I'm going to do, I score this way. Why? Because your ability to choose the right problems will make you more money. Now, some companies lay this out with reach as opposed to revenue, but I really care about cash flow, as you guys know. Here's the truth. If you don't know what to do next, it helps to have a buddy to figure out what to do next. And oftentimes I think that buddy can be an equation. You can have a process, and process limits anxiety. Follow the process and you know that you're going to hit this right step at some point if you don't get up. In business, one of the loneliest things you can be, I think, is an owner of a business. A lot of people think that it's hard to be an employee. Having been both, I would say an employee is a lot easier. And sometimes you make more money because you're not spending in order to eventually one day have the potential ability to make money.
We know that it's hard to be an owner, but it gets a lot less hard if you have a process and you have a principled way to do just about everything you do. That's why I use the RICE score. If I go, okay, Cody, when a problem comes into my head, I'm not stressed about it because I know a problem is hiding opportunity. I almost visually think about a problem like a curtain, where if I understand the problem, I pull back the curtain and behind that curtain is money. Now I just need to figure out how much money is hiding behind the curtain. So I use the RICE score so that I can make that curtain transparent. I'm like, all right, there's this amount of revenue, the cost, here's my certainty, my fix. I think we should go after this problem. This will also really help you if you have other team members or employees on your team. Why? Because everybody wants a to-do list like this. They want 452 things that they can do to check things off their list to feel good. But what they actually need to do is solve one problem. And if you get that one thing out of your way, you probably have a different business in front of you entirely. All right, let me know if you liked this episode this week, you guys. And if you're struggling with your one thing in business, we are here to help you. This is my entire life mission, and it's that you never stand alone in your business and you get to follow proven data and systems in order for you to grow. So if you want to talk to our team about coming to one of our scaling and growth workshops, if you want to talk about different resources and communities we have for builders, then you can hit the link in the description. We are here to help you as Owner Nation. All right, see you next week.
Hey, I have something special for you for being such a loyal listener, because you're here with me all the time. I get asked by a bunch of you, how do I tell if I should buy a business or not? Should you buy a business or not? What price should you buy a business at? How do you structure your deal? I got you, fam. So I'm going to gift you our deal calculator. Every time I look at a deal, I grab the numbers, plug it in here, and see how much money I could make or lose if I did a good or bad deal. So this is my gift to you. And if you're serious about buying a business, we want to help you. You can talk to my team about if you're a fit for our business buying community or curriculum. No matter what, here's your free gift. And if you need a hand to hold, I got you too. Hey crew, this is so cool. The podcast is growing like crazy, and it's only actually because of one thing, you. I don't know if you know this, but the only way the Big Deal Pod grows is when you share it with somebody else. We don't do ads, we don't do pay for play, we don't go on other people's podcasts and talk about it. So if you think there was something helpful here, if we made you money, we made you think about your business or life differently, the most beautiful thing you can do for me is share it. And the most beautiful thing you can do for someone that you care about is to share it with them, help them grow alongside you. So please share the pod. That's how we grow. And also tag me on anything you share. I love resharing other builders across Instagram, Twitter, and all other platforms. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're super important to me. February 17th, 1872, Cleveland, Ohio. A 32-year-old man sits across the desk from one of the largest oil refiners in the city. The refiner has been losing money for months. He knows it. The man across from him, he knows it too. The 32-year-old slides a piece of paper across the table, and on it, a number. The refiner looks at it, looks up. He doesn't want to sell. He built this company from nothing. But the man across from him has already done the math, already talked to the banks, already made sure the refiner cannot borrow another dollar in this city. So the refiner signs. The 32-year-old takes the paper, folds it, and moves to the next name on the list. Over the next 28 days, he will do this 22 more times. 23 companies, 1 month. Historians will call it the Cleveland Massacre because of the quick financial turnover of so many companies. The man's name who forced those companies into submission is John D. Rockefeller, and he is about to become the richest human being who has ever lived. Most people know the name Rockefeller. Few people know what he actually did, and almost nobody talks about the fact that his playbook, the exact strategies he used to build a $340 billion fortune, are the same strategies that work for building wealth today. Buying boring businesses instead of chasing shiny ones, acquiring competitors instead of fighting them, compounding relentlessly, and leveraging other people's capital. I think Rockefeller might be the most misunderstood entrepreneur in history. You see, everyone remembers the monopoly. Nobody remembers that he started as a 16-year-old bookkeeper, making $3.50 a week. So today, I want to tell you his story from the beginning. We're going back to the 1800s. I'm going to walk you through the rise of John D. Rockefeller, and at each turning point, I'll show you the principle he used, why it worked, and how you can steal his homework. Chapter 1, The Bookkeeper. Rewind to September 26, 1855, Cleveland, Ohio. A 16-year-old kid is walking the streets looking for work. He's got nothing, no contacts, no connections. Certainly no college degree. He's just got a list of businesses and the willingness to knock on doors every single day, 7 days a week, until somebody says yes. Now, someone did actually say yes to him. So he started working as a bookkeeper at a small commodities firm for $3.50 a week. Most kids would have treated it as a stepping stone, something to tolerate until something better came along. Rockefeller treated it like the most important job in the world. He inspected every line of every bill that passed through that office. He knew the firm's books better than the founders did. He understood where money came from, where it disappeared to, and why. He was building this mental model of how a business actually works from the inside out. The lesson? Do the plumbing. I'm talking about the invisible architecture underneath every business, how money actually moves, where it enters, where it leaks. At 16, Rockefeller was already analyzing the numbers and asking why. Why does this cost more than that? Why does the supplier charge more than the competitor? Every invoice was a question. That's how you learn the plumbing. Instead of skimming, you interrogate that motherfucker. You read the vendor contracts. You find out why a cost exists before you decide whether it should. No detail is beneath you. You cannot see all of the lever points that people use as marionettes in their life until you know how healthy the pipes actually are. So Rockefeller celebrated the day he got that bookkeeping job every year for the rest of his life. I love this. He called it Job Day because he realized even at 16 that it was the day someone handed him a map to the inside of business, and he studied every road on it. So should you. Chapter 2, the greatest borrower. So fast forward to 1863. Rockefeller's 23 years old. The Civil War is ripping the country apart. An oil boom is quietly exploding in the hills of western Pennsylvania. Wildcatters are getting rich. Fortunes made and lost in the same week. Rockefeller is watching all this. Then he makes a decision that most people would have gotten totally backwards. He doesn't go drill for oil. He goes into refining. The boring, unglamorous, industrial middle step between turning crude oil into usable kerosene. Everyone else is chasing the discovery. Rockefeller positions himself at the choke point, the place where every barrel of oil in the region has to pass through. Then he starts borrowing aggressively. His business partner later says he is the greatest borrower he has ever seen in his life. But his other partners panic. They tell him he's over-leveraged, he's going to sink the company. Rockefeller, he's steady. He says, we have an opportunity now to expand. It may not last long. So when his partners finally try to force a showdown, he engineers a buyout. He has secretly lined up outside financing before the meeting even starts, and he wins every auction for the company's assets. The next day, the newspapers in Cleveland announced that a 25-year-old now owns one of the largest refineries in the world. I love this lesson. Rockefeller understood that opportunity has a clock. Oil refining in the 1860s, booming. Infrastructure, chaotic. Competitors were a mess. That time, he knew was never going to be the same again. So his partners started freaking out. They hesitated. They wanted more certainty, more time to think, more data. And that instinct, that's not irrational. It feels like you're being smart. But in a fast-moving market, hesitation is its own kind of risk. Because, it turns out the biggest fortunes in history are not built by people who moved safely. They're built by people who moved before the window closed. So entrepreneurs move when the window opens. Rockefeller didn't have a guarantee. You can't always wait for certainty. He had conviction. He knew there was a timeline, but most importantly, he moved. Chapter 3, the edge nobody saw. By his mid-20s, Rockefeller has a good refinery. But good isn't going to be enough. While his competitors focus obsessively on refining capacity with bigger facilities and faster output, Rockefeller does what he has always done. He looks for ways to get creative. Remember, he understands the plumbing, and that helped him see a full picture of what else he had right at his fingertips. He realized every barrel of oil refined in Cleveland still had to travel to market, and the transportation costs were higher than his refining costs. So at that time, railroads are charging everyone the same posted rate, 60 cents a barrel. Feels fair, and yet it's a major pain point eating into revenue for every refiner in the region. Rockefeller does something brilliant. He intentionally built his refinery next to both a railroad and a river, giving him a shipping alternative 50% cheaper than anything his competitors can access. Then he brings in a partner, to negotiate in secret with the railroads. Everyone else pays 60 cents a barrel to ship. After negotiations, Rockefeller pays 50. Now, it doesn't seem like much maybe, but that 10-cent difference, invisible to the market, but it adds up. It compounds into $50,000 a year in hidden profit, which back then was millions. So he made an even bigger play with that extra money. He loops his competitors into it. He offers to ship his competitors' oil through his network at rates better than they can negotiate alone. Now he makes money on every barrel his competitors move. He turned his edge into infrastructure and his competitors actually into his customers. It's brilliant. The lesson is, everyone else thought the oil business was about oil. Rockefeller knew money could be made inside the system, inside the transportation needed to make it all go. So that's where he invested more energy to expand and build speed. This way of thinking separates the wealthy players in every industry. You know, for me, the best investments I've made as a CEO isn't software. It's one person whose entire job is AI transformation. They don't care about titles, they just build. They go through every corner of my business, from sales to HR to ops, and work to eliminate anything that's still being done the old-fashioned way. There's money to be made and saved in the behind-the-scenes product or process. In my company, the rule is learn AI or move on. We even built a tool that helps us learn and deploy in all of our businesses AI better. And actually, I'll give it to you guys for free. It's called Top Prompt. You can go to topprompt.ai or you can click below. The cool thing is, if you tell this what to do, it'll give you the perfect prompt and the perfect tool for whatever you're trying to build. I think, like Rockefeller, we have to realize that you should never sleep on how much something can help you move faster and unlock key leverage in a time in which the entire market is moving. And it kind of goes beyond AI. The framework is, when you look at any business or industry, ask yourself 3 questions. Where does the real cost sit? For Rockefeller, it wasn't refining, it was shipping. Who controls that choke point? Every industry has one. The thing everyone else depends on but nobody owns. Find it. What do you think that is in AI? Oh, it's data storage, data centers, it's chips. It's not actually the LLMs. It's figuring out, where do we store all this data? How do we move it faster? Those are the choke points. So what would happen if you own that instead? If it gives you upside, that's where to go. You know, most people never ask these questions. They're busy building AI apps right now. They're busy working on the main business. But the moment you start asking deeper questions, you stop seeing industries the way everyone else does. Rockefeller didn't just analyze his own businesses. He looked at the big picture and the industry as a whole, and what he found there made him the richest man who has ever lived. Chapter 4, The Cleveland Massacre. February 1872, Rockefeller's 32. He's the owner of the largest refinery in Cleveland. He has a lock on the best transportation rates in the region, and he has credit. Serious credit. That's another way to say a lot of money. So much so that none of his competitors can match. And he decides to make a list of every refiner in Cleveland. Starting with the biggest, he invites the owner to his office, opens his book, and shows the numbers. His competitors are stunned. Rockefeller is operating more efficiently than they ever imagined. It seems impossible. They could never catch up. But if you think Rockefeller is showing off, you'd be wrong. He's negotiating. Once they understand how far behind they are from his business ops, he makes his offer. Sell to me, take cash, or take stock in Standard Oil, his company, your choice. Some said they weren't afraid. One refiner told him he wasn't scared of the fight, and Rockefeller looked him in the eye and said, "You may not be afraid to have your hand cut off, but your body will still suffer." What a line! Because for those who refused, the pressure, it didn't come quietly, it came fast. Like banks that had been friendly stopped lending. Railroads stopped offering competitive rates. Rockefeller could undercut their prices and sustain losses they could never absorb. So this is how Rockefeller swallowed 23 companies in 28 days. 18 owners took cash. 5 took stock in Standard Oil. And to those 5, Rockefeller gave them one piece of advice. Sell the shirt off your back, but hold on to that stock. The 5 who listened became some of the wealthiest families in America. The lesson here for me is one of Rockefeller's most powerful tactics: honesty, transparency, and data. He opened his books. So competitors walked in expecting a verbal negotiation, some sparring, and instead he showed them how he operated. And what they saw made it clear why he was an industry leader. He had margins they couldn't touch, costs they couldn't match. Most people argue based on opinions and feelings. And sometimes that works. But the way to win in negotiations is to argue from things that are hard to argue back on. Numbers, data, facts. Opinions, you could debate that. Numbers, that forces a decision. So Rockefeller was louder and more aggressive than everybody else. But he also knew once he showed people the numbers, there was nothing left to argue. The reality will be too big to ignore, and it forced all of his competitors' hands. So whether you're asking for a raise, closing a deal, trying to change someone's mind, stop trying to persuade with emotions. Start revealing instead of negotiating. Find the numbers that actually lead to the truth. So undeniable that there's nothing to negotiate. Chapter 5, the monopoly and the mask. So it's 1879. Standard Oil controls 90% of American oil refining. Rockefeller is a shocking 39 years old and arguably the most powerful businessman on the planet. But when you look closer at who this man actually is, the picture gets weird. From his very first paycheck, $3.50 a week, he gives 10% to his church. He doesn't drink, he never smokes, he never gambles. He goes to church twice every Sunday, his whole life. Despite being the wealthiest man in the world, he raises his children on hand-me-down clothes and carries a bag of dimes to hand out to strangers wherever he goes. Why? This is the part that never makes it to the history books. His father was a traveling con artist. He posed as a deaf-mute peddler selling miracle cures across rural America. He ran 2 separate families in secret, and he disappeared for months at a time. Rockefeller couldn't rely on anybody and had no dependability. He grows up watching that chaos and decides early he's going to be the opposite. Every habit and every routine he has, he builds in direct reaction to a childhood where nothing could be counted on. So his father taught him discipline the only way an undisciplined man can, by showing him exactly what it costs to live without it. The lesson here is that business ownership is chaotic. Employees quit, deals collapse, markets turn, competitors undercut you. Most of it is completely outside your control. So most great operators, they don't leave the other stuff to chance. They obsess over controlling the things you can control. What are those? What are you doing when you wake up? What are your routines? What standards do you hold? The way you end a negotiation, the things you say yes to and the things you never touch. Rockefeller couldn't control the oil market, but he could control himself. And over a long enough timeline, the person with the most discipline, they usually win. So look at your own life right now. Like, what time do you wake up? What do you let into your morning? What decisions do you make on autopilot that you've never actually examined? I think most people say that they would do anything to get what they want out of life, but they won't even wake up an hour earlier. So the question for you is discipline a personality? Or is it something that you choose every once in a while? Because it's really a competitive advantage. And the best time to build it is before you need it. Chapter 6, the reinvention. Rockefeller's 58 years old now. His hair it's gone from stress. His body is actually breaking down from relentless pressure. And he walks away. He steps back from daily management of Standard Oil. He starts playing golf, spends time with his grandkids, hands the operation to the people who he's built and trained. Then in 1911, the Supreme Court orders Standard Oil broken into 34 separate companies. The ruling is meant to destroy his monopoly, to punish him, to dismantle what he built. It actually makes him richer. The separate companies, unshackled from each other, are actually worth more on the open market than Standard Oil had been as a unified entity. So like between 1911 and 1913, by doing literally nothing, Rockefeller's net worth nearly doubles. He spends the rest of his life giving it away. $540 million, roughly $15 billion in today's dollar. That's like the Rockefeller Foundation, the University of Chicago, medical research that would eventually help eradicate hookworm and yellow fever, which now we don't think of much because of this guy, but used to kill a lot of people. He dies in 1937, 2 months before his 98th birthday. The lesson? Rockefeller stepped away from daily operations when he was still one of the most powerful businessmen alive. And that kind of seems strange until you understand a distinction most entrepreneurs never make. Operators build businesses, owners build freedom. The goal was to build something that didn't need him. And this applies whether you own a business or not. The employee who documents their process becomes promotable. The freelancer who builds the system that stops trading time for money. The manager who develops their team stops being the bottleneck and starts being the multiplier. In every case, making yourself replaceable in your current role is what creates room to grow into the next one. So ask yourself, what happens if you disappear for a month? That answer tells you everything about what you've built. Standard Oil didn't actually need Rockefeller in the office. When he stepped back, the thing didn't shrink, it kept growing. So build the system, get out of its way. And by the way, if you need help on that, that's exactly what we do at the Growth Boardroom. If you run a business that does over $1 million in revenue a year, we want to help you scale to the next level of the game. Get to your next 8- and 9-figure business. And if that's you, I want you to apply at the link below. Talk to one of my advisory team members about how we help people scale out of their business. Chapter 7, the real playbook. Most people think Rockefeller built one massive company. He didn't. He actually built a machine that made buying the next company easier than the last. First refinery sucked, it was hard. The 10th refinery, easier. The 20th, inevitable. Every acquisition made the next one simpler because he already had the credit relationships, stronger deal flow, operators who knew how to run a business inside the system he'd built. So when you build a system that builds the holding company, you develop real relationships with the things that will make your business grow faster. And eventually the deals start finding you. Rockefeller built an engine that kept buying oil companies. That was his end game. Here's the thing about Rockefeller that I think gets lost in the monopoly story. He became the richest man in history in an industry nobody thought was glamorous. Oil refining, especially back then, was disgusting. It was dirty and smelly and blue collar and low brown. Fancy people didn't do oil refinery, actually. No serious member of the elite was taking part of that. Kind of like today, car washes, plumbing companies, laundromats, the industries, they don't make headlines, but they make money, recession after recession. They're not exciting. Sometimes the path to making extraordinary wealth isn't doing something extraordinary. It's doing something essential that everybody needs nonstop. The real secret there is to doing it for longer than everybody else was willing to. That was Rockefeller's real secret, I think. And it's still available to anyone paying attention. Like, tell me in the comments, what's the first business you'd buy? And I hope it's not a sexy one, because I think the next generation of billionaires will be built in the boring. And if you want the full framework for how to actually do it, the deal structures, the due diligence, the financing, watch this video next. By the way, guys, we've never done this type of video before. I'm obsessed with Rockefeller. I think this story is so fascinating. Tell me in the comments if you are too, and if you want us to do more videos exactly like this one.